Hello everyone and welcome again to another episode of The Committee Reads. I am your host KWCs, and with me today I have GrayShot151, Alex, and Joe. And today we'll be tackling the surprisingly monstrous Match 146, Zilla and Jaguar versus Gaira versus Gyaos by Tyler Treeshock. Continued for Match 137. From the ocean, the crimson twilight looked as if it was misplaced on the small island it resided on. The large resort stood next to a fishing community, a town easily dwarfed by the twilight. Dozens relaxed on beaches, which were on the sides of the pier in front of the building. The world-famous resort was nicknamed the Pacific's New Atlantis because the beaches were countless and each had their own stellar view. The island was environmentally sound. The extinct volcano was perfect for hiking. The old World War II Japanese airfield was a sight to see. The coasts were homes to only the rarest of species of fish. To anyone, this would have been an almost unbelievable sight, especially with the setting sun in the background. But it paled in the eyes as well. It paled in the eyes as well as mind of Nick Tatopoulos when it was compared to the sight of his girlfriend, Audrey Timmons.
Aww.
Thanks for coming with me on this story, Nick, Audrey said as she walked beside him. I thought it was the perfect time for us to call in the rain checks we have on each other, especially since Animal's mother-in-law is visiting again. But would you follow me anyway like you did at the South... But you would follow me anyway like you did the South Pole, wouldn't you, Nick? Huh? The perfect response, huh? A distracted Nick responded as the two walked off the pier toward the resort check-in. Dang it, I was hoping that would be walked off into the ocean. Anyway. Well, Audrey, this will be nice, and we will finally have some time to ourselves without our respected professions interfering. Nick then thought about the next 5 days he was going to have with his sweetheart. He had told his teammates to call him if Zilla started moving toward the Pacific, give him along with Audrey a warning. But since it had been a day or since the two of them left New York by plane, and with no phone call, his worries quickly died away as the glass doors in front of them parted. The couple entered the resort's main hobby to discover a massive plaza with a zero hanging from the ceiling and a colorful palette of tropical flowers placed all over the room. The fighter originated from the old... The fighter originated from the old airfield on the island and was in mint condition, complimenting the rest of the hotel. Tired from the trip, the couple then proceeded to the check-in counter. Hello and welcome to the Crimson Twilight, the clerk behind the counter stated to them as the couple approached. How may I help you? We would like to check in, please. The room is under Timmons. I can never get that name right. Audrey addressed to the clerk. The woman quickly typed in the name before a fake smile appeared, and she exclaimed, Yes, you are checked in, and I will send you your bags up if you wish. I think we have them, thanks, Audrey responded while she waved the clerk off. Oh, there's a new welcoming party for all new arrivals today, the clerk yelled as if not wanting to miss the last box on her imaginary checklist. But because of the incoming storm, the activity was moved to the main dining hall. Again, no thanks, Audrey, now slightly annoyed, stated as the pair walked away. Plot device avoided, anyway. The pair arrived at the elevator, and just as they were about to click it to stop the elevator doors open. We're about to click for it to stop. The elevator doors opened to reveal an elderly Japanese man wearing a giant tree palm shirt. I thought that would be palm tree, but whatever. As well as an old medallion-like necklace. Which floor? He asked as the couple walked in. 5, thanks. Oh, 5, thanks. Nick replied to the man as the elevator's doors closed. Newcomers, I see. Well, I think you'll enjoy it here, the elderly figure stated. He leaned in closer as if someone was watching. Don't tell anyone I said this, but the food isn't the best. Is that so? Nick asked, surprised by the old man's honesty. He smiled.
Honesty.
Dick blasted! He smiled a nearly toothless grin. Yeah, the beaches are top notch, let me tell you. What is your name? Are you with anyone? How long have you been here? Audrey inquired, either out of curiosity or her reporting skills were taking over. After seeing Audrey interview hundreds of people, Nick presumed the latter. My name is Goro Buki. My assistant and I have been here for a few days. Why do you ask? Sorry, it's kind of a habit. I am a reporter, Audrey answered in exposition. And what are your two names? Goro curiously asked. My name is Audrey Timmons from Channel Sorry. Yeah, you should really be issuing that apology now. Audrey embarrassingly responded before pointing to Nick. This is my boyfriend, Nick Tatopoulos. Nick smiled warmly and tried not to blush from Audrey's remarks. Goro's brow furrowed as he said, That name seems somewhat... But before the old man could answer, the elevator's doors opened. As the couple realized the line of questions they were about to receive, both dashed out while Nick turned back to the elderly man and declared, Well, then we will see you around then, Goro. We will see you around then, Goro. Whoops, wrong character. Nick became an old man. The old man smirked as well as replied, Yes, that would be nice, and maybe next time you shall meet my assistant. Audrey, trying to be kind to the old man, asked, What is his name, so if we bump into him... we know he's your assistant? The elevator doors started to close when Goro replied, Trust me, when I say it, you will know when you see him, but his name is Jet. The elevator door closed around, causing the final part of the sentence the old man was saying to be abruptly cut off. Did he say Jet? Audrey asked Nick in confusion. Probably a nickname. Nick responded before the couple walked down the front hall to their room for the night. The next day rolled around and the couple exited the hotel after a rough night's sleep due to the passing maelstrom. The storm had... I don't think a maelstrom's a storm, if I remember that right. I forget.
Nope, that's right. That's definitely right.
Absolutely right. Okay, I'll take your word for it. I won't look it up later on or anything.
The white man says so.
The storm had battered the island severely, but luckily left as fast as it came, opening the sky for the much-appreciated sun. With nice weather at their disposal, the duo headed for the empty beaches around the island. After an hour and a half of walking on the beach in a search for a private location, Nick pulled out a map to figure out how far they were along the coastline. Come on, Nick, just relax, enjoy the walk. Audrey whined with her hands in the air as she watched Nick scan the map. It really is a beautiful island. There is no one else here but you and me, and it's not like we're going to get lost. I know, Nick retorted. Though I am positive I noticed a white sand beach at least another mile further. So third time's the charm. Hey, Nick, what is that? Audrey questioned as she pointed toward an object in the distance. Nick squinted, trying to focus on the tiny speck. Probably a fishing vessel. As the two walked steadily toward the boat, it became clear why the vessel was on the beach. Nick's walk turned into a full sprint as the boat's wrecked features became clear. Audrey, hurry! Call for help! There should be a number on our room key card. I'll search the ship, Nick yelled as he dashed towards the vessel. As Audrey pulled out her phone to call for assistance, Nick climbed onto the wrecked ship to search for survivors. The ship was small, so Nick's search was quick. The deck of the ship was splintered in areas as well as completely gone in others. With the deck clear, Nick headed for the enclosed compartment of the vessel. The roof displayed massive gashes in it. The interior looked as if a tornado had swept through the place. In addition to all the glass, whether they were just for technical instruments or in the windows, was cracked or destroyed. No, Nick sadly whispered to himself as he searched the interior of the boat. Not a trace of anyone in this vessel. Then his thoughts of despair quickly changed to Audrey, the scientist. The scientist exited the vessel's interior to see if she had reached the resort with her phone. Did you reach the hotel? Yes, they said they would be here soon, Audrey replied as her gaze fell to the beach. No footprints in sight. No footprints in sight, Nick, so no one ever jumped off and headed inland. Audrey then pulled herself onto the boat to see how bad of a state the ship was really in. Do you think the storm did this and maybe the crew fell overboard? Audrey inquired while she looked at Nick for some type of answer. Maybe, but that wouldn't explain the shredded roof or the deck, he responded. Hey, Nick, Audrey called. What is this green stuff over here? Nick hurried over to Audrey, who was already in the interior of the ship and pointing to the ceiling. In between the shredded metal were large blotches of green residue. I don't know, Nick answered as he examined the residue. Audrey, do you have a tissue or something that I could put this in? No, I didn't bring anything like that with me, but I do have my phone, which has a high-definition camera, Audrey retorted as she handed her phone over to Nick. Does that mean our vacation is over? Flashes illuminated the room as Nick took a few pictures of the green material before he turned to Audrey and said, I can't conclusively say, and most likely this was all done by the storm last night, but I have my doubts. If it wasn't the storm, then you sure do have a better story than a piece on the resort, Nick noted as he gave the phone back to Audrey. With the thought of a new story, Audrey started to look through the interior of the ship and search every compartment. As Nick was about to tell her to hurry because the authorities were going to arrive soon, Audrey opened the largest compartment in the interior, which revealed something wrapped in red cloth. Audrey pulled away the sheet to see what it covered, only to discover a small man. But before she could react to the stranger, he screamed a terrifying scream. Wait, what the? Alright. Demons! The frail man yelled at the sight of another being. He backhanded Audrey as he got to his feet and made a desperate run for the door. Nick was on the scene in an instant and rammed as well as pinned the disturbed person to the splintered floor. The man continued screaming hysterically as he tried to wrestle free from Nick, only to suddenly stop moving. His eyes were empty, as if his soul had left his body, but he was somehow still alive. After a few moments, Nick released his grip on the man and quickly went over to Audrey. You alright? You alright? Nick questioned as he outstretched his hand. Audrey smiled and held her shoulder before she said humorously, Suffered worse injuries on Black Friday reports, and I am far past getting used to danger that follows you around. Audrey stood upright and walked over to the unconscious man. I don't think I ever seen you knock someone out cold, Nick. Nick scanned the person, took a pulse and replied, No, I think he's having an acute stress reaction or basically in shock. Nick then lifted the man over his shoulder and started for the exit before telling Audrey, We have to hurry and get him to a medical facility, though. He looks dehydrated and his condition could worsen if we don't hurry. Audrey and Nick watched the mysterious individual carried into the hotel on a stretcher as the manager of the hotel looked on. With the crowd starting to gather, the figure waved the duo inside to speak about the situation in greater detail. If I could say that right. I would like to thank you two for saving the fisherman, in addition to quickly reporting your find. You see, he was part of one of the resort's personal fishing units we hire from the local community, the resort manager explained. On behalf of the resort, I hope this did not ruin your stay or give you a bad impression of our island, since you are writing a story on us, of course. Not unless you sent them out there during the storm, but where is he going? Oh, where is he going? Audrey worriedly asked. Our infirmary where he shall receive fluids along with medication, the manager calmly replied, ignoring the earlier insinuation. He shall receive the best care, but please, don't mention this to any of our other guests, as it might cause a panic. We won't, Nick promised as he stepped into an elevator with Audrey. As the elevator door began to close, the manager stopped it with his hand. Oh, and this invitation's for you, courtesy of one of our other guests. Thanks? Nick puzzlingly noted as he received the note. The manager smiled, then stated, I was covering for the mailroom position today before I got word of the situation, and your name is hard to forget, Mr. Topopoulos. That was not on purpose. The manager waved a goodbye, and the elevator ascended to the 5th floor. Once the pair reached their room, Nick asked Audrey for her phone. She handed the droid to him while she took the invitation, her curiosity killing her over who sent the card. Pass. Ugh. Great shot. You're up.
Oh, yes. Give me just a moment. Yeah, that works. Sorry, something came up. A distant ringing broke the lazy silence hanging in the heat headquarters. The phone continued to ring before finally a member of the team picked up. Hello? Mendel Craven yawned in a tired... Hello? Mendel Craven yawned in a tired tone before sneezing from inhaling the dust of the cellular device. To which point, pretty much encapsulates him. Mendel, this is Nick. Is Elsie there? The scientist inquired. No, Craven replied before breathing deeply and saying with a congested, Elsie is at home sick as I wish I were. Randy left for some punk rock concert in another state, and Monique has... Well, she's not here. Now I'm the only one here to deal with Nigel's repairs. His tones changed when he asked, how is your, vacation with Audrey coming along? Nick paused a moment, watching Audrey tear open the card's plastic envelope with her teeth like a rabid animal before he responded, quite well, thanks. Give Elsie some pictures I have taken of some identified biological material. I'm sending them to you now from Audrey's phone. You know, exactly what you want to hear when you go out.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you referring to a mutation, the engineer questioned? Not sure, but after checking the beached vessel that it was on, I have a hunch that it may just be one, he complained. But I can't say I wouldn't be happy if it turns out to be your average sea vegetation. Then the background noise of the phone on Audrey's end. Audrey declared, Nick, the old man we met invited us to join him in the ballroom for dinner tonight. Okay, Nick yelled in response. Mendel smirked and asked, run to an old friend there, did you now? Nick let out a small breath before he stated, not exactly, just a man we ran into on the elevator named Ibuki. We only talked to him, and this is the geek out moment. There we go. Sorry, I had something in the back. There we go. Wait, the Goro Ibuki? Japanese, late 70s? Mendel interrupted with a sense of unmatched excitement. Confused at the sudden outburst, Nick cautiously asked, I take it you know him? Craven thrillingly replied, not personally, but he revolutionized robotics, engineering, along with computer engineering, and his invention was one of my first inspirations for Nigel. Well, I will mention your name at dinner, but please, give the pictures to Elsie for inspection, Nick insisted before glancing at Audrey to see her scrambling through a closet for apparel. Now, thinking of how he had an excuse to see Elsie at her apartment, Craven quickly said, oh, okay, Nick, bye. Nick suddenly remembered one last thing to ask and blurted out, Craven, wait, how is Zilla? He left his home a few hours ago for breakfast. He has not returned yet, and I do not have Monique's tracker on hand, but I will go and give Elsie the picture now, so talk to you later, Craven rapidly stated as he hung up the phone. Nick put down his device before he then walked over to Audrey, who was looking through her closet for a dress for dinner. Just found out something about our guest at dinner, and you might want to sit down for this. The daylight was fading by the time the couple was about to head down to the dining room to meet Goro. Audrey's phone, unfortunately, though, as the two were about to head downstairs, started to ring its usual annoying tone. Nick watched quietly as Audrey's face turned sour, and she hung up the device and turned to face him. Sorry, Nick. My boss wants a preview of the report on the resort now, Audrey sadly exclaimed. I guess the patience is the cost of this trip. Hey, go meet Goro at the table, and I will be down as fast as I can. A simple kiss on the cheek marked the pair's parting as Nick headed down in a suit to the main hall to meet his inviter.
Don't you mean a kiss on the cheek?
Close enough. Nick spotted Goro easily through the sea of people in the hall. Goro's small size illuminated in thanks to a tropical polo, even if the text is a fraction of its size. How nice to see you again, but where is Audrey? Goro asked as Nick approached him. Her profession caught up with her as usual, but she will be down shortly, Nick sadly responded while he sat down. Though, didn't you say you had an assistant? Yes, but he didn't want to come to join me for dinner, the old man replied as he clutched the back of his neck. I believe he thinks he angers the staff. Curious to see what his assistant did, and see if what Mendel told him was true, Nick inquired, Does your assistant help you with your inventions, Mr. Ibuki? You could say that, Goro noticed a slight smirk of amusement formed on his wrinkled face. I see you've learned more about me from our previous encounter, as I have done with you, Mr. Totopoulos. You stopped creatures with Godzilla as I did with the original Godzilla a long time ago when I was a far younger man. Knowing his work was out in the open, Nick decided to question his invitee's statement and see if Goro was joking. First, the international community has changed the name of the creature to Zilla to correct the original misidentification in 1998. And secondly, when did you see the original Godzilla? Nick skeptically asked. The year was 1971, and with my small assistance plus my assistant, Godzilla was able to stop two evil monsters bent on the destruction of
Isn't that
Japan.
1973?
Yes, you are correct.
Right.
Goro's old. He's he can't keep track of the years.
No, Greyshot was young. He didn't know what he was thinking.
Yeah.
White people.
Old man through an old, a young Caucasian man thinking through an old Japanese body. That's the reason. Oh, okay, Nick skeptically replied, only then to realize his cell phone was ringing. Sorry, he apologized to Goro before he answered. Hello? Let me get this straight. I get sick with an acute case of pneumonia, and you think assigning me work, sending Mendel to my apartment, and doing all this at the break of dawn is really the best treatment. The thought is what counts, right, Nick? Elsie sarcastically and angrily responded.
Okay, that's actually pretty funny.
Sorry, I needed a biological examination. You're the best expert I know, Nick apologetically stated as sincerely as possible. Well, you are lucky those photos were so unusual, Elsie replied. So, what is it? Nick asked as Goro watched him as if he could hear the conversation. His eyes searched deep into Nick's expression, looking for some hint. I can't say with 100% certainty, but it is definitely not any normal sea plant life. It has mammalian in addition to aquatic plant-like qualities, Elsie explained. I hypothesized with these results, though, that the monster that attacked the boat was a creature called Gaira. It is an undersea mutation that is known for its incredible regeneration, attacking boats along with coastal towns, not to mention it's suspected of attacking another island recently. How long ago was this? Nick curiously inquired. A small town with no survivors was discovered about 100 or so miles from your position a week ago. That was the least confusing find. Further investigation on the island's inland showed two large piles of skeletal remains, two nest formations that were destroyed, plus a third intact yet empty nest. Nick rubbed his forehead as his mind went over all the data before he asked, so after consuming a small town as well as a few inland giant creatures, this Gaira creature is now preparing to make the resort its newest buffet. Seems
Gaira.
likely. No, I'm going to say Gaira because I'm the one reading, so suck it. Seems likely. So I would suggest an evacuation.
Okay, have fun reading this by yourself then.
Okay, bye.
Dick blasted.
Seems likely, so I would suggest an evacuation of the island while Mendel calls Hicks for support, because there is something else coming to the island. Apparently Zilla never returned, and reports from Mexico of a giant lizard emerging from the Gulf and heading for the Pacific are emerging all over the web. So like always, Zilla's headed to protect his daddy, Elsie stated in her usual sarcastic mood. Thanks, Elsie, Nick replied as he ended the phone call and turned his attention back to Goro. Was it an important call? Goro asked suspiciously. Unfortunately, yes. Mr. Buki, we need to... A tremor suddenly shook the very foundation of the tower. Screaming followed the quake, which echoed into every corridor and suite of the structure. Nick rushed through the crowds of terrified tourists outside to see what was happening, only to stumble on a scene straight out of a horror movie. The massive pier the resort boasted was now merely shards of wood on the shore. The shipping vessels that had been attached to them were now on the Crimson Twilight's front lawn, as well as turned on their sides like toys. Nick scanned the area for the culprits of this act, but his findings were not reliable in the least. A green five-fingered hand reached out of the water, followed by a whole arm and then the rest of the creature's body. The figure's green fur was patchy and blood-soaked. Its disfigured, in addition to horrid face, matched a small stub that was the creature's right arm. He had just finished dining on some unsuspecting tourist, and he was hungry for more. Standing proudly at 50 meters tall, Gaira was on the prowl once again. What the hell? Nick stated in a barely audible tone, petrified by the fiend that stood before him. A tap on his shoulder and a little grunt made Nick finally turn away from Gaira toward Goro. The old man seemed younger than ever before. Maybe it was because of how he stood and phased it with Gaira. Maybe because the light no longer exposed all its wrinkles. Do not worry, my friend. I have a way to deal with this abomination, Goro declared, unafraid of the beast. Perplexed, Nick stared at the old man as Goro pulled his medallion to his face, clicked a button, and then ordered, Jaguar, come to the resort entrance. Seconds passed, and security personnel from the resort exited the structure before they started shooting at Gaira with their handguns in a foolish attempt to kill the creature. The monster, however, showed no sign of anguish, and with his meal now in the open, Gaira charged toward the resort. Nick grabbed Goro and tried to get him to move, but the old man would not budge. Then a sonic cry filled the air, causing Gaira to stop in confusion, and Nick to watch shockingly as a small metallic man landed in front of the resort. The being gradually lifted his head, revealing a smile that, while permanent, was not to show that it was weak. No, it was a smile of confidence. Mr. Totopoulos, Goro stated confidently, I would like to introduce you to my assistant, Jaguar. The metallic warrior, though, wasted little time preparing to fight the green menace. With a single arm motion, Jaguar started to grow. In less than a second, the machine stood at the same height as Gaira. The gargantuan remained motionless, as well as confused at the sudden appearance of an adversary the same size as him. This proved to be quite an advantage for Jaguar, as the robot was already sprinting toward Gaira. The robot delivered the first blow to Gaira's twisted green face. The beast flew backward into the port it had destroyed earlier, sending water skyrocketing. The green gargantuan was back on his feet in an instant, though, and charged at Jaguar. Jaguar took a defensive pose as the creature closed the gap before moving out of the way at the last second and delivering a powerful karate chop to Gaira's neck. The crazed beast fell to the ground in front of the resort, but not before grabbing Jaguar's leg with his only good arm and pulling the metallic warrior off his feet. The two regained their footing, and an up-close battle soon ensued between the two foes. Gaira clawed in addition to swatted with his only arm, while Jaguar delivered punches along with jabs with his robotic fists. The battle raged on, neither showing that he had the advantage. After a couple of moments, the robot received a message from Goro, which said, Jaguar, take the fight somewhere else. The resort is too close to innocent civilians. Jaguar understood, and he instantly calculated a plan to lure Gaira away. Gaira in the rumble sent a powerful punch at Jaguar's chest, which the robot did not block. Jaguar skidded backward from the blow, before turning around and using the momentum to dash away. Gaira, in an unmatched fury, gave chase to Jaguar. The two monsters, under the cover of night, quickly disappeared in it. Jaguar, judging the distance from the resort was far enough, after running for a full minute, stopped, turned to face his opponent, and then flew into the air at full speed directly at the green gargantuan. Gaira did not react fast enough, and Jaguar collided with the beast. Gaira reeled in pain as multiple ribs cracked from the blow, but Jaguar did not let up. An uppercut to the jaw, a two-handed smash to the top of Gaira's head, a knee jab to his face, as well as a spin kick to the abdomen caused the beast to finally fall onto his back, before Jaguar started a punching barrage onto his face. Gaira blocked the assault with his one good arm, before chomping down the robot's wrist. Gaira released his hold after sparks from Jaguar's wiring electrocuted him, but the desperate move worked in Gaira's favor as Jaguar jumped back. Gaira clumsily returned to his feet, with bruises in addition to blood covering his own body, but his fighting spirit still intact. The robot then scanned Gaira to see if any of his blows had caused significant damage, only discovered that the beast was rapidly healing. Jaguar had to end the fight fast with a critical strike, so the metallic warrior decided to increase his size. In seconds, Gaira was outsized by at least 20 meters by the now enormous robot. With the green gargantuan's rage still edging him to fight, Gaira dashed at the machine. Jaguar caught Gaira in his tracks before quickly smashing his palms against Gaira's head. Disoriented, Gaira could not stop Jaguar from getting behind him. Grabbing a hold of Gaira's one arm and putting a chokehold onto Gaira's neck with the robot's free appendage, Jaguar activated his foot thrusters and flew into the sky. Flying at over Mach 3, Jaguar quickly ascended high into the atmosphere before performing a 180-degree turn with Gaira in his grasp. Gaira, his impairment now gone, tried to thrash his way out of the robot's grip as the two flew straight toward the open ocean, only for Jaguar to grant him his wish. The savage beast was thrown down and fell headfirst into the cool Pacific water. An eruption of water as well as blood followed the surge before a large wave sprang forth from the impact zone. But the green creature continued to sink further down. Satisfied that he had won the fight, Jaguar headed for the resort at top speed, while also readjusting himself back to his normal human size. Gaira slowly floated to the bottom of the sea as darkness filled the empty voids of his vision. His entire torso was shredded from the impact, and he could hardly move with his other injuries he had sustained. The gargantuan's mind, for the first time in its pitiful existence, had a new motive other than to consume. Vengeance on the two monsters that had caused him anguish was now Gaira's only objective as soon as he regained his health. Pass.
Alright. Bewildered by what had just happened outside of the resort, Audrey found Goro by Nick's side in the resort lobby, along with a crowd of furious yet frightened guests. Nick, what just happened outside? I was only gone for like 5 minutes. Audrey questioned in a state of confusion. I finished sending my preview to only see two giants fighting two giants fighting like the lawn was the WWE. The green mutation is called Gaira, and is most likely what attacked the boat we found yesterday. The robot is named Jaguar, and, Nick stated before pointing to Goro, is his assistant. So where is Jaguar now? Audrey inquired. The word of today is inquired. Anyway.
It is a great when you want to ask...
I know it's a great word, don't get me wrong!
Yes.
I told him to watch over the area in case the abomination should return, Goro calmly assured. Jaguar is more than a match for that creature. Then as the old man finished the statement, 3 security officers walked into the front of the trio. The leader of the group, while pointing to Audrey and Nick, inquired, "There we are again. Are you two Mr. and Mrs. Tatopoulos?" Nick blushed yet quickly responded, "We're not together, but yes, we are. Why?" "You two are to come with us. A Major Hicks wishes to speak with you in our security room." Goro stared at the officer in confusion, but Audrey, in addition to Nick, released sighs of relief. "Sure, but is he joining us?" Nick noted with his head still hung low as he pointed to Goro. Considering his assistant is the one that just stopped that gargantuan. Should be Gargantua, anyway. With a nod of approval from the leader, Nick, Goro, along with Audrey, trailed behind the officers as they entered restricted parts of the resort before the 3 security officials opened the door and told them to enter. The room held only 2 people, one of them being the brown-haired manager from earlier, who is now behind a man somewhere in his mid-30s. "Hello, my name is Cliff Sessler? Sessler, okay. My name is Cliff Sessler. I don't know how to pronounce my own name, and I am the director of the resort." He spoke with a sense.
Do you want to know where his name came from?
Actually, yes. Do tell.
It is Cliff Blazinski from Epic Games, at least at that point. That was the first name. And then Sessler is from, at this time I had been watching X-Play, and I believe he now went on to a YouTube site, but it's Adam Sessler of the host/video game Infamy. That's where I got those two. Manny was Kubo's creation in regards to name.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's neat. Fun facts for the day. Anyway.
The more you know.
"And I am the director of the resort," he spoke with a sense of pride. I have been requested by a Major Hicks to gather the three of you for a video conversation with him to decide on our best course of action in this situation. I assume that all of you have significantly more knowledge of what exactly the hell is going around in my resort. Cliff then pressed a button which revealed the entire front wall to be a big television screen. Not as much as you may think, Nick sarcastically declared as he turned to face the screen. The TV screen flashed as it turned on. After a few seconds of flickering, an array of every color appeared before the screen and revealed Major Hicks in full military uniform. He appeared slightly stressed, yet for Nick, the scientist knew it was the Major's normal look. Nick, it is good to see you, but I'll keep the chit-chat short, Hicks asserted. The monster that attacked the resort has been confirmed as Gaira. Unfortunately, I do not have enough ships at my disposal to guarantee the safety of everyone on the island, so the air is our only route for evacuation. The Japanese have deployed 7 CH-47 Chinooks and a few
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And a few destroyers and one of their own officers to co-run the operation, while the U.S. Navy has given me possession of the USS George Washington, plus Task Force 70 of the 7th Fleet. Oof! The Major sighed before he said, "Good thing your lizard put the fleet in the area, or I would never be able to use it." "Do you have a visual of Zilla?" Nick asked with a prominent sense of urgency in his voice. Major Hicks looked away for a brief moment as he tried to figure out the best way to break his news to Nick before he proclaimed, "I should also mention Zilla has disappeared from our scanners. After taking a vacation through Mexico, he dived into the Pacific where we lost track of him." Nick's jaws tightened. "We suspect he is headed toward the island as well, but he is evading our sensors just like Gaira." "Wait!" Audrey broke in. "How could something the size of Zilla escape from your sonar?" "We have a few ideas," Hicks murmured. We pursued him, but he was too fast for our ships, and if I recall correctly, it can burrow as well, which can't be detected on sonar." Audrey scolded the military officer over his wise comment, and turned to see Nick's face filled with worry. Before she could ask, her boyfriend said, "Change the topic back to Gaira, Major. Gaira, Major, have you been notified of Gaira's regeneration, the fact that it was missing an arm?" "Yes, Cliff told me this detail about the monster already, and I put the same conclusion together. It is why I cannot risk a naval assault, because there could be dozens of these things in the sea, and I wouldn't know," Hicks explained. "Anyway, the plan is to have the Chinooks land on the deserted World War II airfield, gather all of the civilians off the island, and then bring them to the USS George Washington, which will be near the coast. The airfield is our best evacuation option, because of a nearby rock wall that is about 100 meters tall and surrounds 60% of it. The airfield is far inland, so airstrikes would be possible with little interference to the extraction. And if we do all this during the day, then the sun should persuade the creatures to stay in the ocean." "Gaira hates large amounts of light," Nick curiously asked. "You would be shocked at what Google search can pull up, but yes, Gaira hates the sun, and usually avoids it at all costs. So we will use it to our advantage," Hicks explained.
I mean, I gotta think, like, when you're, like, researching Google, what is this monster? Wikipedia.
yeah, I know. No, don't get me wrong. I totally get the logic to that. It's just silly. It's still like
it's a joke. Yeah.
Right. Well, I get that's purposeful. So Hicks explained as he lowered his voice as if he was about to tell a secret. "Nick, I trust you to help all the civilians get to the airfield while Goro's robot defends the shoreline. An immediate bombing of the island will follow at 1 o'clock, and that time will not change. So do I have your support, Totopoulos?" Oh, I said the name right this time, thank gosh. Nick's mind raced as Hicks finished. A bombing of the island? The destruction of an entire ecosystem to stop one monster? No. He could find a way around it. His team. Nick's palms began to sweat as he remembered the situation. He was alone, and in this situation by chance with hundreds of lives at risk, including Audrey's. He could give Hicks hell later. Right now, his friend needed his help. You can count on me, Major. I should really whisper that since it's a smaller font. You can count on me.
I know. I don't know what happened with this.
It might have been... I have a theory. Now, if you remember a long time ago in the KWC side of things, the text used to be a lot smaller, like the small text you're seeing right here. That I'll have up on the screen, you'll be seeing all the parts where it's sort of like deformed. That used to be the original text size for the site. But Anthony eventually upconverted all of the all the matches to be more fitting for mobile, which is why the text is a lot larger than what it used to be. Now...
Gotcha. So we can just blame people with bad eyesight.
I think it might have been another formatting issue with this one. That it has a lot of small... I don't know how it happened. I don't know how you could make that happen. But I do think it might have been a formatting issue. So, that's my best guess. It's the only thing that makes sense to me.
No, makes sense. Makes sense.
Good. Then I'll see you tomorrow at noon, Hicks noted before the screen faded to black. There was a heavy silence that fell upon the crowd. Cliff continued to ponder his thoughts in the corner while the manager quietly walked up to Nick. Do you need to tell me anything, Mr. Tatopoulos? Do you know the quickest and safest route to the airfield? Nick inquired. Definitely. I grew up here, but it is Manny. Sorry, it seems I've never formally introduced myself, the manager stated as he smiled politely. Thought I better since it seems it's going to be a long night. As the sun rose on the horizon, the island sprang into a fury of activity. The vehicles on the island were quickly filled with belongings and people as its entire population of the island headed for the evacuation zone. The old airfield was nothing special, and was only a long dirt road with a small abandoned building, but having the only defensible and large plot of barren flat land on the island, its existence overnight became essential. The mass departure was scheduled for noon, and with the help of the resort security's forces, everything moved smoothly. Tents were hastily fastened for some slight shelter from the sun, along with food and water stations. The old base was now a temporary headquarters where Nick, Goro, Audrey, Manny, plus Cliff were all managing the situation. It's almost noon. Where the hell's the military? Cliff announced as he looked out of the window of the base to watch the preparations. Is your Jaguar still at the resort's roof? Nick questioned Goro in curiosity while ignoring Cliff's remark.
See, no inquired.
Not this time. It will be there in next 5 paragraphs though.
Give it a minute and a half.
Yes, unlike me, he does not tire, Goro comically affirmed as he took a seat near the window. The sound of chopper blades then filled the air, and Nick looked down at his watch to see that it was noon. All 5 of them walked outside to see Chinook slowly growing its size in the distance before the transport started their descent. As all 7 of them landed, the back bays of the transport vehicles lowered to reveal U.S. Marines. The small military units quickly hurried to the mass of people, set up a perimeter and a line to allow them to enter into the vehicles without causing a stampede. Nick notified a lone soldier heading directly toward him. The confident strident ordnance strapped to his back easily informed him the officer was none other than Major Anthony Hicks. Good job, Tatopoulos. You again show you could do more than study worms. Hicks mockingly commented. Well, thanks, Major. I always try to impress, Nick retorted. So have Gaira or Zilla been spotted? There has been no sign of either of them from my recon divisions. Static subsequently followed Hicks' reply before a voice started saying repeatedly, This is Recon Alpha. Air Recon Alpha. Gaira has appeared on the western beach. Repeat. Gaira has arrived on the western beach and is headed inland. Over. Well, speak of the devil, Hicks stated before he picked up his radio. Copy Air Recon Alpha. Prepare an airstrike perpendicular to the chasm. You have authorization to go loud. Over. Roger that, sir. Preparing to strike. Over and out. Almost instantly, another voice broke over the radio. This is Air Recon Bravo. Another Gaira, the northwest banks. Things dashing inland toward the chasm fast. Going to engage and try to slow it down. Over and out. Hicks paused momentarily and closed his eyes in deep thought. He tried to devise a plan that would get the tourists still evacuating out of the chasm. He spoke again. Ground Squadron Echo, do you copy? This is Ground Squadron Echo. We hear you. Over. Gaira has made landfall, and there are at least 100 civilians in the chasm. You need to guide them through the caverns and avoid any route that is in Gaira's reach. Will do. Over and out, the captain answered. Hicks then turned to Goro and ordered, get your robot to hold those Gairas off as long as it can while the civilians evacuate. Ugh. What about us? Cliff in self-worry yelled. We are riding in the medical evacuation unit, which is about to leave, so I suggest you start walking, the major declared. Nick, Goro, Cliff, Manny, and Audrey, and Hicks then all headed to the vessel, while other civilians made their way to the safety of the Chinooks. Past to Gracia, and Alex is off because he has a bit of a headache at the moment. So,
do we want to pass it to Nagoda?
No, to you.
Oh, yeah.
To,
I just...
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, let's pass the gray shot, then to Nagoda, and then, back to me.
Can do.
Okay.
Jaguar received his creator's transmission. Both monsters would intersect. The metallic warrior waited patiently until the gargantuan duo arrived. The only difference between the two was a massive scar on the Gaira's torso, which Jaguar realized was the Gaira from the previous night, only its bad arm was fully regrown. The gargantuan with the scar wasted little time studying Jaguar like it had done the previous night and charged toward the robot. Revenge on his suffering form from the previous night was on his mind. With the help from his doppelganger, plus his arm fully regenerated, Gaira knew this was now a fight he could and would win. Flesh and metal collided, but Gaira proved to be stronger as Jaguar flew backward into some nearby trees. The beast continued his assault by grabbing Jaguar's leg and tossing him like a ragdoll. After a hard impact, the metallic warrior quickly regained his footing. Jaguar then scanned both of the monsters for any weaknesses and any combat scenario that he could use against his foes. They showed no advantages. As the scans ended, both Gairas slowly moved around Jaguar in an attempt to cut off his retreat. Knowing the robot could not run anywhere, both beasts dashed at full speed toward Jaguar. Taking advantage of both creatures' lack of intelligence, the robot rolled out of the way at the last second. The two Gairas smashed into each other, and in the confusion, Jaguar began his counterattack. The robot grabbed both Gairas by the head and smashed their respective skulls together. Both beasts clutched their heads as their vision spun, allowing Jaguar to deliver a karate chop to each creature's chest. One Gaira fell to his knees, while the other stayed upright, only received the full force of Jaguar's attack. A volley of jabs in addition to punches assaulted Gaira before an uppercut to the jaw sent the battered Gaira to the ground. Jaguar walked to the left side of Gaira in preparation to throw the gargantuan, only to hear the shriek of the other Gaira. Jaguar abruptly kicked the downed Gaira, which impacted the charging gargantuan. The kicked gargantuan bounced off his clone, only for Jaguar to grab its leg and thrust him backward to deliver an over-the-top punch to his face. The punch Gaira rolled over the ground before coming to a rest at the mouth of the chasm. The other Gaira charged as well, as threw lightning-fast swipes in addition to hooks at the robot. Each was met with a block, and each upset Gaira more and more. Jaguar then ducked under one furious attack and managed to lift the green monster off the ground and throw his swelling form into the other Gaira. Jaguar sent a sonic cry to the two monsters to stay down, but sheer ignorance fueled the two Gairas to stand up once again. The two charged toward Jaguar, but this time Jaguar stayed still and used his eyelights on both monsters. The two gargantuans covered their faces, giving their opponent enough time to sweep their feet out from under them, sending both crashing to the ground. The old and new Gaira were then still. Jaguar slowly approached one of the down Gairas to find out why it was staying down. He couldn't have won yet, right? The colorful machine stood over the unscarred Gaira, unsure what to do next. Before his scanners could detect any pulse, Gaira snatched the robot's left leg. Unable to move, Jaguar started kicking the Gaira, holding him in the face, before the other gargantuan tackled him to the ground. An evil grunt sounded from the Gaira, who was pinning Jaguar to the ground, while the other beast walked over and grabbed the metallic warrior's left arm. Metal screeched as well as groaned as it was pushed to its limits. Then as the metal began to twist, snap! A sonic cry resounded from Jaguar as the left arm was torn off from the elbow joint down. Gaira tossed the arm into the air before hurrying to the other side of Jaguar to do the same to his right arm, but Jaguar was determined not to let that happen. Transferring all of his power to his foot thrusters, Jaguar flew off the ground into the air away from the attackers before landing off in the distance. The robot then ran a percentage scenario to calculate his current chances of winning, a test that resulted in negligible results. Jaguar glanced at his severed arm before he had an idea went through his processor. He knew he could not beat both, but that did not mean he would go down without holding them off from the chasm. No, Jaguar knew what he had to do. Both Gairas watched as the robot started messing with its broken arm, picking up wires and experimenting with it like a mad scientist with his specimen. The Gairas looked at each other and then grumbled angrily. Patience was not a virtue for either of them. They simultaneously charged wildly at the robot while his guard was apparently down. There was something that neither the Gairas nor Jaguar was aware of. The sound of thunder cracked the still and pleasant tropical air. The Gairas were hit by projectiles that enveloped their body in flames. 2 jets sped by, just barely avoiding Jaguar's head. Then, without warning, one jet sprang into flames as a winged monster sped by at an incredible rate. In a flash of a moment, the military intervention came to a halt. The red aerial monster sped over the chasm and hills toward the volcano. Distracted by the surprise attack, the duo did not notice Jaguar charging toward them until it was too late. Jaguar jumped into the air to deliver a high kick to the original Gaira's chest, which sent the gargantuan flying. The other Gaira, the Gaira he had not fought the night before, had little time to react as Jaguar jabbed him with his shredded arm. The severed end of the arm sliced deep into the surprised gargantuan's abdomen, before Jaguar sent every ounce of power he had in his body to the broken limb. Jaguar had wrapped the exposed wires around the stump of an arm, which now was delivering a powerful jolt of electricity through the creature. Gaira had grasped Jaguar's neck and tried to strangle the machine in a desperate attempt to stop the pain, but the metallic warrior continued his assault unhindered, his permanent smile flashing ever so proudly. Gaira's flesh started to burn, his organs started to fry, and his heart stopped as the electric current continued through his body. Jaguar's power cord then overloaded from the immense amount of strain on it. Both monster and machine stood motionless, until they lost the fight with gravity. With little power left at his disposal, Jaguar scanned his immobile opponent to see his foe dead. Shortly after, the robot suffered a power failure, which suddenly shut down the robot's processors, leaving Gora's assistant to weather away at the foot of the chasm. The battered, bruised, as well as burned Gaira stood back up to see both the machine and his clone motionless on the ground. Gaira walked over to the two to see if they were still alive. No movement or signs of life. A stomp to the immobile Jaguar's chest, and a victory cry into the sky satisfied Gaira's vengeance on the robot. The gargantuan then turned to face the dormant volcano and dashed toward it. Like Jaguar, the red creature that had showed up earlier would perish by his hand for slicing off his arm, and nothing was going to stop the gargantuan. Nick glanced at the other Chinooks as he ready to board his own. He watched as Manny guided a family into the craft, and then he too got on board. Everything was going according to the plan. There was a strange feeling in the air, though. It wasn't the humidity or the incredible heat wave, but something worse, something more sinister. Nick stepped outside and gazed through the crowd and into the chasm. The last group was being escorted toward the airfield, but they weren't walking. The few stragglers were in a dead sprint as they ran away, but then the figure of Gaira made his appearance in the distance. Certain the creature was searching for its next meal, Nick screamed, "It's through the chasm! We need to get these people now!" One of the pilots responded, "We need another minute! Engines haven't peaked yet!" The scientist's worries began a gruesome reality, though, as the gargantuan shot a quick glance at the airfield, stopped, and sprinted toward the airstrip. His arms flailed wildly as he took his first steps onto the dirt strip. Gaira sent out a powerful shriek to his lunge, but then a loud sonic boom answered. Massive explosions flashed all around Gaira as the Air Force re-engaged the gargantuan. With the gargantuan occupied and the stragglers aboard the other Chinooks, all the transports except for the medical vessel took flight with the USS George Washington as their destination. Nick watched and listened to the battle with the jets and Gaira. 2 missiles detonated on Gaira's scaly torso, sending flakes and chunks of flesh in the air. "No!" an oddly familiar voice cried. Nick turned around along with everyone else in the Chinook to see the man from the fishing vessel jump up from the stretcher he was on like all his pain had flown away. He jumped over the packed evacuees and hit the emergency back entry release button, which lowered the door. In all the turmoil as people began to scream, Nick failed to grasp the situation before the man was already out the door. Hicks instantly broke into a sprint after the deranged man, with Nick following right behind him. The man reached a few dozen yards before Hicks tackled him to the ground, an impressive feat considering he was carrying an assault rifle and a rocket launcher on his back. "What the hell is your problem?" Hicks shouted as a missile sped past them and hit its target. "We can't go into the air. It's not safe," the man exclaimed as he still clawed for freedom. "It's not too safe here," Nix declared before turning the man's head to show him Gaira being attacked by the Air Force. Gaira leapt into the air and smacked down a jet that flew too close to him. A fiery explosion followed relatively close to the pair. "I'd rather take my chance with it than the bird," the fisherman retorted. There was a brief silence. Even the jet seemed to go quiet, as if they too were dumbfounded by what he said. "What bird?" Nick cautiously asked. "The green monster attacked my boat before it came. It ate everyone on board except for me," the man responded before an explosion detonated relatively close by. Nick and Hicks turned to see that it was one of the jets. There were several balls of flaming scrap metal across the airfield. "No way in hell Gaira shot down all these planes," Hicks suddenly realized before a sonic shriek filled the air. All 3 men turned toward the volcano, the sound's source, to see an almost invisible yellow ray strike another jet. As the fiery remains of the fighter crashed to the ground at the edge of the volcano, a large demonic-shaped bird emerged. Monster's head was pointed at the end, and she had 2 dark eyes that were filled with death. "The bird!" the man screamed. "That's not a bird," Nick corrected as his eyes widened in shock. "It's Gyaos." The Gyaos took off from the volcano's top, gliding down its side with a foreboding elegance before it touched down beside Chinook. Its mouth parted, revealing jagged teeth, and as it moved its head to clutch the transport, a small explosion detonated on her head. The Chinook's pilots took advantage of the distraction, taking flight while the Gyaos found the source of the rocket. The Major stood in the middle of the airfield, empty rocket launcher in hand. Hicks dropped the depleted weapon as the monster sent a shriek toward its newfound prey. "Well, Totopoulos, the Chinook is clear, and that was my best shot, so any suggestions?" Hicks sarcastically asked. The fisherman broke into a sprint away from the 2 men, before Nick replied, "Move!" Hicks and Nick started sprinting toward one of the random trucks at the end of the airstrip as the Gyaos gave chase. The 2 men ran as fast as they could over the strip, but then the minor quakes generated from the Gyaos caused Nick to fall. Hicks stopped and opened fire with his rifle, trying to give a few extra seconds to Nick, but the good act came in vain as the bird lunged for them. As the mouth of Gyaos came within meters of them, the ground exploded upward. A dust cloud enveloped Hicks, Nick, and the Gyaos before an all-too-familiar growl echoed through the area. The dust cleared as the demonic bird took flight. A muscular lizard with an elongated jaw stood in the center of the dust cloud, breathing slowly. He turned his head and looked at its adopted father, before bellowing a small cry that he was safe. Nick got back on his feet and hurried along with Hicks to get a car while Zilla ready to fight Gyaos. Pass.
Okay. Zilla was the first to attack as he sprinted towards Gyaos. The demonic bird was slow to react, and Zilla landed a direct headbutt on the creature's abdomen. The winged beast flew backward and landed on its backside, before Zilla jumped on top of it. The reptilian behemoth started slashing away at the downed bird. In horrendous agony, Gyaos fired a quick sonic ray at Zilla. The ray sliced into the lizard's shoulder, causing the reptile to fall off the bird in anguish. Unopposed, Gyaos rose back to its feet, and then took flight. After returning to his feet, Zilla searched the area for his foe, only to hear a shriek from above him. The flying beast descended upon the unsuspecting reptile with ease and attacked with its sharp talons. Zilla screeched in pain as the sharp dagger sliced into his smooth skin. The lizard tried to stop the attack with his own claws, but the bird was too persistent. Unable to stop the bird, Zilla discharged a heat ray from its maw. The scent of burning flesh filled the area as Gyaos' underbelly and wings were torched. By the way, I'm just gonna apologize now if I sound a bit weird. I bit my tongue earlier, so...
You really just wanted to add the dramatic effect.
The demonic creature retreated from the reptilian flamethrower and landed 100 meters away from Zilla. The cocky reptile roared at the smoking bird in an act of intimidation, only for Gyaos to send a thunderous shriek into the air. Zilla cocked his head in confusion as the bird stood motionless before multiple shrieks echoed back. The reptile turned towards the volcano to see a dozen small 3-meter tall Gyaos fly out of its peak and glide towards him.
Ooh.
The adult Gyaos had just called her offspring for dinner, and Zilla was the main course. Nick and Hicks, after reaching an abandoned vehicle, both turned around and watched as a dozen small dots flew out of the dormant volcano. The small dots grew larger as they quickly approached Zilla, their shapeless bodies sprouting wings and pointed heads.
Oh no, the small size has defeated him.
Yeah. It's
Starting the truck, quickly replied,
Wait.
I have a theory
Wait,
on this.
hang on a second.
Wait,
I didn't hear a word you say about the small-sized font. Can't you see it? What the hell?
Oh,
yeah, Kaiju X, what the hell? No, but you want to start where, what the hell, the Major Kaiden shot?
yeah, this... Just thought that was my side.
Oh.
Anyways.
No, it's a formatting issue.
Nick, after starting the truck, quickly replied, I have a theory. Wait, I need a better voice. I have a theory on this whole mess, Major. But before I say anything, I suggest you call off your jets because the airspace now belongs to the Gyaos. Hicks quickly agreed, and after calling off his forces and telling them of the current situation, the Major entered the vehicle.
Well, Totopoulos, I guess the million-dollar question of the day is what the hell is going on?
What in the world?
Nagoda's been having far too much fun with the voice changer.
I was gonna say, I am so proud you have hit. Wow, that's instantaneous.
Nagoda's our official voice actor, anyway.
Don't you have a voice changer thing too, Grayshot?
No. I mean, I had it on my phone a while back, but I got rid of it.
By the way, you're a bit inaccurate with your Nick commands. You didn't have him say the words 3 times in a row.
Ah, this is true.
Yes. Anyways, Nick started the army truck and drove towards the path through the wooded inland before he answered the Major's question. An island, as you may know, was recently attacked by Gaira, and 3 nests were found. 2 of them were destroyed, with remains of the creator close by. I believe the remains were Gyaos, and the nests were their creations. Gaira, after a buffet of eggs and giant birds, chased after one Gyaos that escaped, which led it to this island.
That would explain why the fisherman was attacked by both monsters at the same time. But why would it choose this island?
My guess, the scientist noted, large amounts of food close by for her offspring, like the other island and Tokyo.
That would mean it was on this island for a couple days. Why did it not show its face until now?
For 2 possible reasons. The Gyaos might have stayed out of sight to make sure its food did not run before its offspring were born. That, or the creature went into a hypnotized state like some animals do when giving birth, and just could not move.
Last question. Since you obviously have all the answers,
The Major stated sarcastically. That voice is starting to sound a bit weird.
what's our plan of getting off the island?
Well, I hope that there's a fishing vessel we can use since evacuation via air has been cut off. The last remark caused Hicks to remain quiet until a strong, disgusting smell suddenly filled the volcano. What is that? Nick asked himself. Nick looked over to Hicks, who sat rigid and silent. 2 words passed between his lips.
Burnt flesh.
Jesus! That sounded terrifying! That wasn't Hicks, that sounded like the devil. Yes.
Let me try. Oh, that makes it deeper.
Jesus.
Okay, this should be fine.
Okay, so where was I at?
You were at the point where you sounded like a villain in the ghost that you usually.
Yeah, you sound a little
Small
too
child?
echoey, yeah.
Oh,
Burnt flesh. That's it.
That's a little
Burnt
more.
flesh.
No, just
How do you
continue, man. You're
know?
good.
I've done a lot more than fight monsters, Nick. So trust me when I say I know the smell well.
the Major responded as his hands began to twitch, while his eyes remained rigid. After a few minutes of the horrible smell, a massive metal roadblock appeared, causing the vehicle to slide to a stop. Both men exited the vehicle to see the full reality of the situation. A non-moving and most likely dead jet Jaguar was blocking the quickest route to the small coastal town. "How long until the bombing?" Nick calmly asked. Hicks looked at his watch.
30 minutes.
Gaira cowered and shielded himself with his large arms as explosions detonated all over him from enemies he could not effectively fight. A small miracle occurred, though, for the fiend as the bombardment paused. Hold up. Sorry about that. My little brother came into the room.
Oh, okay.
The gargantuan stood upright to see the skies clear and things that had bombed him fly away. Before the creature could figure out why, an all too familiar screech filled the air. Gaira turned to see Gyaos, who was at the other end of the airstrip, watching his flock fight another creature. Realizing that vengeance on the bird was within his reach, Gaira charged towards the Goliaths, even though Goliath is retired now. The large adult Gyaos watched as Zilla was attacked from all directions from its flock. Weak sonic rays sliced into Zilla's hide from all directions from the juvenile Gyaos, causing Zilla to become blind with surgical-like cuts. A lucky heat ray caused one small beast to ignite in flames, but the 11 others continued their assault. The lizard, though, was unwilling to back down to the attackers until the adult Gyaos flew and struck the unaware monster to the ground. Realizing that he cannot win fighting both the full-grown and smaller Gyaos, a blood-covered Zilla dug into the earth at lightning speed. Within a few seconds, the reptile had disappeared from the sight of all the spectators and combatants. The adult Gyaos waited patiently for Zilla to appear, only for a familiar shriek to gain her attention. The adult Gyaos quickly flew into the air as Gaira stopped his sprint where the creature had originally been. The gargantuan shrieked into the air at his foes before the flock attacked Gaira. The gargantuan immediately grasped one Gyaos and crushed them in his grasp. Then he grabbed another, chomped it in half, and swallowed the chewed remnants. The mature Gyaos watched as his flock was slowly slaughtered, and in an attempt to stop the gruesome killings of its offspring, fired a sonic ray through Gaira's chest. The 7 remaining Gyaos fled as the gargantuan fell to his knees. Gaira's own blood pooled in his jaws, yet the beast was far from finished. A fact represented well as Gaira lunged forward, headbutted the adult Gyaos. Gyaos' flight came to a complete stop as the monster fell to the ground before being pulled over to Gaira. The green humanoid wasted little time and started punching and clawing at Gyaos. The bird screeched in agony and fired multiple sonic rays at the gargantuan, one slicing open the fiend's neck, but that only caused the humanoid's attack to gain in ferocity. Then, tired of attacking and wanting to fulfill his vengeance on the demonic creature, Gaira put a stranglehold on Gyaos. It was time to bring this battle to an end. The winged creature felt its windpipe breaking and sent its talons deep into Gaira's body. Large gashes formed on Gaira's abdomen from the talons, but a major wound did not stop the beast. Gyaos' vision was growing blacker and blacker, as death was about to meet the demonic creature. The ground started cracking. Gaira and Gyaos had little time to react as the ground opened up around them and swallowed both monsters whole. Gaira easily lifted himself out of the sinkhole, which gave the winged beast a moment to fly out of the pit toward the volcano in retreat. As the gargantuan stood upright, he found Zilla waiting for him at the surface. Do you want me to keep going or do you want me to pass?
That's up to you.
Anytime you want.
I'll read a bit more. There's dialogue. After gazing at the full length of the robot, Nick let out a sigh at the sight. It will take too long if we double back, not to mention too dangerous since the Gyaos would see us out in the open, and we can't go through the trees since they are too thick. We don't have the time to spare. Nick clenched his hands into his fist as the thought continued to provoke and taunt him. Can't you call off the bombing?
Not an option.
Hicks countered.
Remember those Chinooks? Well, we got those as long as we entered a joint operation agreement with Japan. And the guy they sent is a hard-ass.
Nick's eyes raised in disbelief.
Funny Tatopoulos, but even with me here, I doubt he would stop it.
Didn't you call off the operation over the island? The scientist countered. Veins started appearing over the Major's forehead before he replied.
Yes, I did. And the guy now in charge probably reinforced my call. I'll give him credit, though. With the Gyaos showing up, I'm surprised he didn't launch the missile.
With little options and deciding to think, Nick began to walk around the perimeter of the machine, with Hicks following shortly behind. About halfway around the non-moving jet Jaguar, the source of the smell became clear to Nick. A burned and bloody body of one of the Gairas lay next to the dormant machine. I'm just gonna try a different voice here real quick.
Told you to That's even worse. Told you to Tatopoulos.
Nick nodded before looking and seeing the broken arm of Jaguar.
Electrocution.
Hicks noted, with a slight smirk of self-amusement.
I'll give the robot credit for that. Better than anything your mascot ever did.
Nick then pondered the statement Hicks had said before asking him, Do you still have your radio? Hicks looked over at Nick, his surprise ever present.
Dr. Craven's a little out of our reception, wouldn't you agree?
Not him. I was thinking of Major Radio.
Wait, what?
I was thinking of Major Radio Goro.
Oh, I see.
Not him I was thinking of, Major.
Oh, yeah. No, okay. It's not him I was thinking of, Major. Yeah, I think it's meant to be phrased like that, but there's no comma. There was no comma.
It's a period. It's the end of a sentence. As if he stopped talking and then said the next sentence.
No, there should have been a comma before of to indicate there was a brief pause.
Nope, fine. It's totally fine. But it was wrong. And
Nick instructed before he ran off towards the car. Pass.
Alright. The pilots that were in charge of flying the medical Chinook had thought they had escaped hell when they evacuate the island, only to find themselves in another hell of their own making. Turn this helicopter around, or I swear I'll make sure you two were left back there, Audrey yelled in pure rage. Listen, lady, we can't turn this thing around even if we wanted to, one of the pilots responded. The island's now infested with more monsters, and it's too dangerous, like we have said before. Want to see dangerous? Audrey retorted. See what happens if you people you left don't make it off the island. If the people you left don't make it off the island. But at the breaking point, irritated beyond belief, the pilot that replied earlier stood up out of his chair. His size easily dwarfed Audrey, yet the reporter held her ground, even as the pilot leaned over to her and said to her face, Listen, lady, they are probably dead, or they will be from bombing, and there is nothing we can do, so go sit down and... Audrey threw a punch and it landed on the pilot's nose, which let out a sickly snap. The man screamed in agony as his nose broke and bled while Audrey stood over the man. The dozens of passengers remaining silent from the act. I can guarantee you they are not dead, Audrey exclaimed before she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned around, her fist ready to strike again, only to discover Goro. They will be fine, the old Japanese man stated in a sincere voice. Have faith in them. Audrey let out a breath past her lips. Let a breath pass through her lips, there we go, and accepted Goro's words. With Goro leading her, Audrey returned to her seat beside two soldiers who looked gratuitous at her act. Why you look at me like that? The soldier replied smugly. He really deserved a punch in the face for leaving the major back there. Thanks for doing what we all felt like doing.
AKA, this is my moment of made to combat. Try to.
I couldn't catch a word you said there. You kind of cut out there.
Oh, I was saying I think I made Audrey a bit too much of a, bit too aggressive. Maybe I need to calm it down there.
We'll see if she does. A slight smile of satisfaction formed on Audrey's face, yet faded quickly as buzzing started over the radios of all the military personnel of the Chinook before a familiar voice sounded off. This is Major Hicks. Come in, Medical Chinook. I repeat, this is Major Hicks. Come in, Medical Chinook. Over. Audrey rushed to one of the soldiers, grabbed their radio, and answered. Hello, Hicks. This is Audrey. How are you and Nick? We're both fine, and we're heading toward the civilian docks to get a ship, but I need to get Goro on the radio, pronto. What about Nick? Is he okay? Audrey questioned. He is fine, but the faster you get Goro on the radio, the faster we get off this despicable spit of land, the Major retorted. Audrey hurried to the old Japanese man, quickly gave him the radio. Hello? Goro curiously asked. Yes, this is Major Hicks. Am I speaking to Goro Ibuki? I am speaking to Goro Ibuki, correct? Yes. Good. I will make this short. Tatopoulos and I are on our way to the island civilian docks. However, we have been blocked by a robot. It electrocuted Gaira with a broken limb, knocking itself out. Any possible way we can, reboot him? A long pause followed Hicks' statement as Goro absorbed the explanation. Yes, there is one way. If you enter him, connect the major circuitry back together, and send a small electric jolt through his system. The minor feedback should give my assistant enough time to activate a reboot of his internal core. Unless you want us to just tie them together, how exactly do we connect them? The wires, once you put their ends together and the jolt is achieved, should repair themselves. It is a repair feature that is quite similar to biological regeneration. Convenient. Nanometal, I guess. Foreshadowing 150.
Nanites.
Well, foreshadowing to 150. Anyway. So, get inside, attach the wires, and leave the rest of the robot. Is that basically all? Simply? Yes. Goro noted. That's all I need to know, the Major assured. This is Major Hicks, over and out. Oh, finally, I get to read a monster part. Gaira crossed the destroyed remnants of the airfield with ease, only for Zilla to swipe the gargantuan with its tail. Gaira fell, but recovered from the fall quickly and lunged at the reptile. Zilla tried another tail swipe, only for Gaira to catch the appendage and toss the lizard across the landscape with ease. Zilla landed on the old command house of the airfield, destroying the last landmark of the area, before it getting back on its feet and sprinting toward Gaira. The gargantuan countered by running at full speed toward Zilla, only for the two monsters to ram into each other. The two monsters then grappled, both trying to make the other budge, but neither would give ground until Gaira chomped down on Zilla's neck. Oof. The green fiend ripped out a large chunk of flesh, and the massive amount of pain caused Zilla to fall back. Gaira, taking advantage of his downed enemy, jumped on top of Zilla and started hammering its head with furious punches. Shrieks of agony filled the air before Zilla unleashed an acute heat ray at the massive wound on Gaira's abdomen. The humanoid's insides burned, and they cauterized before the green creature fell off of Zilla in severe pain. Zilla scrambled away and dug under the ground while Gaira checked his new wound. Again. The gargantuan, after a few seconds, adjusted to the new agony of his fresh wound, stood back up to continue his fight with Zilla, only to find his enemy gone. A thunderous shriek sounded for the green gargantua, only for the ground underneath them to cave in. Gaira, while falling into the freshly made space underneath the ground, remembered the last time this occurred and prepared to climb up, only for Zilla to strike the unsuspecting fiend. Topsoil and rock covered the gargantuan's face as dirt from the surrounding walls started filling the newly created void in the ground. Zilla, an expert at the underground, ignored the falling earth and chomped down on Gaira's shoulder. Unable to truly combat Zilla from all the earth being buried on him, Gaira started randomly clawing at Zilla's head until after one lucky swipe to the eye, the reptile released his grip. Gaira, using his hands to stop the dirt from disturbing his vision, opened his eyes to find his foe merely to see the inside of Zilla's maw, which was meters in front of him, and then a green light. Zilla unleashed a highly concentrated heat ray at the gargantuan's face. Green flames enveloped Gaira's head before traveling through the fiend's mouth and down the humanoid's throat to his lungs. Oof. The dirt coincidentally stopped falling as the ray ended, which revealed to Zilla the full extent of his attack. Gaira's head was nothing but a green skull, as all of its skin had burnt off. Its eyes were melted into his own head, and its hands were at its own throat, as the gargantuan desperately gasped for air to no fortune. Seconds of gasping was then followed by Gaira falling limp in the underground void. Bloody, bruised, and tired, Zilla put one foot on the dead Gaira and roared into the air from his subterranean death trap. The lizard afterward climbed out of the void and buried the body of Gaira and the gargantuan's hopes for revenge under the earth. Sensing his father was still in trouble, though, Zilla started sprinting before burrowing under the ground to get to his adopted parent. With the car battery now in hand, Nick hurried over to the broken arm of Jaguar. Upon entering, the scientist stopped at the amazing sight and studied the inside of the robot as he waited for Hicks to arrive. A robotic exoskeleton was intermeshed with wiring that was like veins inside of a human. "Okay, Mendel, you weren't exaggerating on this one," Nick stated to himself before the sudden clamor of footsteps made him turn around to see Hicks. "Any luck, Major?" "Yeah, Totopoulos. If we put the wires close enough to send a small current through them, we should be able to provide enough of a jolt to get this thing running again." Nick scanned the robot for the two largest broken wires, and after finding them, cautiously pulled them close to each other. The wires had diameters of tires and were extremely heavy, but after a few minutes of struggling, the two men finally brought the shredded wires together. Nick carried the car battery and set it between both wires. "How did you know about the battery?" Hicks curiously asked. "Mendel sometimes needs a power source to restart Nigel, and Jaguar's design was one of his inspirations, so logically, this machine would have the same process. I will admit, I did not think it could be this simple. It's not, it's just a convenient plot device to get the story going. Anyway."
What? No, don't be ridiculous.
Both men grabbed a wire and slowly edged the cords closer to the battery until bolts of electricity started flowing between the two. The wires then connected themselves to each other, which surrounded the battery before all the other wires started sparking inside of the arm. "Move it!" Hicks shouted, signaling Hicks, Nick, dig blasted, too similar. Hicks shouted, signaling Nick to run with him out of the damaged limb. Jaguar felt himself awake from his cybernetic coma. The bolt had given Jaguar a millisecond of power, but for the robot it seemed like an eternity. In that short time, the machine activated its power core to reboot. its repair features to activate, and finally its processors come back online. As its power levels return to a usable threshold, the Jaguar sent out a sonic cry to announce its return. Hicks and Nick ran back to the car for safety, only then to hear a sonic shriek. They turned to see the Jaguar rising off the ground. The robot scanned the area before locating the two men responsible for its activation and knelt beside them. Robot and man stared at each other for a few seconds before the massive form of Jet Jaguar suddenly shrank down to the size of a normal human. Hicks and Nick remained speechless until the robot walked over to them and offered his hand in thanks. Nick smirked and took the robot's hand while Nick ignored the act. "Listen, can you fly us off this hunk of rock, Hicks commented, attracting Jaguar and Nick's attention. Jaguar looked over his body and scanned his systems. His core was relatively weak, and his thrusters were in a state of repair. At max, a few minutes of flight could be attained, or a few minutes in a larger state, but nothing more at that moment. Unable to communicate all these findings to the two individuals, Jaguar simply swayed his head negatively. "Damn it," Hicks cursed, before he looked at his watch and said, "No car battery, no car, and 15 minutes left. Fine, how are going to help us? All your base are belong to us."
Yeah.
Jaguar remained still for a moment before he walked past both men and stood behind their automobile. The two men watched as Jaguar grew slightly and physically pushed the vehicle over them. A sonic cry then sounded from the machine, alerting both Nick and Hicks to get in. "Is he gonna push us?" Hicks remarked. "Why can't he become huge and just fly us out?" "Probably too much power usage for its rebooted core to handle right now," Nick retorted, before he walked over to get into the driver's seat. The other word of today is retorted.
Retorted. It's when you want to say reply, but
yes.
Retorted.
So growing over 10 feet and pushing a car a couple miles is less power consuming. The Major groaned before he rested his forehead in his palms and let out a sigh. "This is turning out to be one hell of a day," the military officer stated begrudgingly before he entered the passenger seat. With everyone inside, Jaguar then started running, pushing the vehicle toward the coastal town. Pass.
Audrey felt the Chinook land and looked out the window. Jets lined the one side of the length had to be at least. Hundreds of people were being given water and food at the far end of the ship, and dozens of men in uniform working on the deck. She then remembered some news reports she had done on the Navy, in addition to Hicks's speech, concluded she was on the USS George Washington. The reporter, though, had little time to marvel at the aircraft carrier before the back gate opened. U.S. Marines and Japanese troops waited behind the falling door, and as the back fully opened, both sets of soldiers immediately evacuated the Chinook. Dozens of Hicks soldiers, who were already in the transport vehicle, assisted the soldiers as wounded and others exited the craft. Not wanting to be alone, Audrey stayed close to Goro as they ventured through the civilian zones on the carrier. A loudspeaker suddenly echoed, causing all of the civilians to turn and face a small, poorly constructed stand. A Japanese man of middle age walked up to the podium before he stated, speaking to the crowd of 1,000 people, "Hello, everyone. My name is Nato Kitazawa, and I am the person currently in charge of this operation. You should have no worries as you are safe here, and in the next few minutes we will reboard my government's Chinooks and fly toward the nearest island airport, which is in the Philippines. Reboarding is in 5 minutes, Nacho stated before he turned away from the podium. So, it's not like a great vacation, but, if you wanted to do a multiple stop, it's not too bad. Get to see the Philippines, get to see, a few monsters destroy everything.
Yeah.
Top-notch stuff here.
Maybe in the military bombing in like 15 minutes, it'll be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just ignore the giant monster coming out of the mountainside and the...
Yeah, exactly. "Follow my lead," Audrey whispered to Goro as Nato started walking away. "What about the people still on the island?" Audrey shouted from the relatively quiet crowd. Nato Kitazawa stopped and turned his attention back on the sea of people. Within a few seconds, the officer was back on his stand and in anger retorted, "You must be confused, ma'am, as all persons have been accounted for. Major Anthony Hicks and Nick Totopoulos, they don't ring any bells?" As the veins in the Japanese man became apparent to the crowd, Audrey smirked in her success. Neto stealthily pointed to Audrey, capturing the attention of a few Japanese soldiers under his command. The officers walked over and ready to escort Audrey out of the crowd, only for Goro to step in front of them. "If you take her, then I must come too," the old man declared to the military personnel. Deciding it best to take both, the officers escorted the pair inside of the carrier as the mob of civilians on the deck returned to the Chinooks. "Why are we here?" Goro inquired as the two walked into the USS George Washington. "You're not going to be any help in the Philippines. Not to mention, Nick and Hicks are going to need our help stalling the bombing," Audrey whispered before the two entered a final door and found themselves in the command room of the USS George Washington. The coastal town appeared in the distance as Nick and Hicks neared the area. Jaguar stopped pushing the car, though, as the road to the town ended with the downed trees. Jaguar walked over to the roadblocks and tried to lift them out of the way, but with one arm and little power to use, the machine could not budge the debris. So, does anyone have any issues with Jaguar currently with pushing a car miles? No?
Oh yeah, Tricus is all on an island. Oh my gosh. Miles. Is this the same island that Godzilla fought Gorosaurus on so long ago?
Yes. So
fun fact.
Miles.
Fun fact.
Well, I mean, there are some larger islands in the Pacific, but this is just like, it's more like, I remember people reading, like, how could your Jaguar not fly, but he pushes, a car miles, and...
Yeah.
Regardless, it's fine, Nick announced as he exited the car, attracting Jaguar's attention. The town's a quarter mile away. We can make it on foot. The robot nodded in approval before the three started running toward the town. As Jaguar, Nick, and Hicks ran to the first of the 3 rows of a dozen buildings, slight shrieks made them all run for the nearest cover. Nick peeked from the corner of a fishing store to see a juvenile Gyaos on top of one of the buildings in the center of the town. The creature's small head barely peeked over the roof, but the movement revealed it consuming what appeared to be the man who jumped out of the Chinook. A happy ending for all those that were involved.
Great.
I mean, well, maybe not a happy ending, maybe just a partially okay ending.
It's subjective.
Yes, it's it's subjective in these types of scenarios. We didn't want it to be too happy, but on the other hand, the poor guy. In any case, a chill went through Nick's spine as he tried to imagine the death of the fisherman, only to quickly regain his cool and refocus on the docks. Nick returned his gaze back to Hicks before the scientist asked, Have anything to take out the small Gyaos, but not loud enough to cause the whole flock to come?" "Depends on your definition of quiet," Hicks whispered. "If anything is close, my rifle would alert it." Nick then turned to Jaguar and asked, "Can you take it out quietly?" A second later, Jaguar nodded and silently made his way toward the unsuspecting Gyaos. The robot quickly entered the one-story home the Gyaos perched itself on. As Jaguar entered, the Gyaos stopped eating and looked down at the landscape below, as if it sensed something was wrong. A moment later, a massive arm burst through the roof and yanked the unsuspecting monster into the building. A slight yelp was heard before a sickening crack followed the sound. Jaguar exited the building before signaling Hicks and Nick that it was clear. Yeah, this is my video game moment of the game. It's like, you have an issue with a thing? Just do the stealth takedown.
Yeah.
Oh, so Jaguar's nemesis now, just grabbing people through walls.
Listen, it's fine. It's fine. But, regardless. The 2 men hurried over to the machine's position, only to clear the dead body of Gyaos inside the home. The 3 men then headed for the intersection to check if the next group of houses were clear. With no Gyaos in sight, the small group continued further into the town until the pier came into view and with it a few boats. A sense of hope started to resonate within Nick as the boats came in view, only to hear a slight creak. In the middle of the road, Nick turned around to see a red blur disappear behind some of the buildings. The scientist closed his eyes and concentrated on his hearing before a slight crackle filled his ears. Realizing the situation, Nick sprinted forward and yelled, "It's a trap! Go, go, go!"
Finally, there we go. That's what we've been looking
There
for.
it is.
There it is. I do actually have to go for a moment.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so it's my turn?
Yeah, it's going to be your turn.
All right. Oh, did he just leave?
I think so. Or at least he'll...
Okay.
So yeah.
He'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Hicks turned to yell at Nick, only to see multiple juvenile Gyaos take flight. In an instant, the major pulled out his rifle and opened fire on the 3 Gyaos. Jaguar positioned himself in front of Nick, before growing to his maximum size maximum size for his injured core, which was about growing to his maximum size for his injured core, which was about 15 meters. 2 Gyaos attacked the robot, but the third bird flew around Jaguar and grabbed the fleeing scientist. Nick yelled and thrashed in the grip of the Gyaos as the two flew toward the end of the town. Jaguar, in an attempt to save Nick, fired up its thrusters, only for them to shut down, his core unable to take the stress. Jaguar shrunk himself back down to his normal human size and rebooted his thrusters. The robot then flew after Nick as fast as his core would let him, but even stretching his systems, Jaguar was not as fast as the young Gyaos in his present condition. The 2 Gyaos, seeing Jaguar fly after the sibling, were about to give chase when they heard new prey.
Hey, fresh meat right here.
Hicks yelled. Okay, there we go. Hicks yelled, attracting both Gyaos to his position. I changed the voice up a bit. The creature landed on opposite sides of the Major, before each letting out a screech to their prey. Hicks smiled, and after checking his rifle, in addition to pulling out one of his pistols, Hicks looked back at the monsters.
And here I was, afraid I wouldn't get to kick a little ass today.
Hey, I'm actually back if you want me to take...
Oh yeah, sure. We're at both Gyaos charged.
Okay. Both Gyaos charged at the Major, only for... Hicks' rifle and pistol unleashed concentrated lead on both of the Gyaos before he jumped out of the way at the last second. Both Gyaos collided with each other as Gyaos primed and tossed all of his grenades at the birds. 3 series of explosions detonated over the two before the smoke cleared to reveal 2 bloody yet still moving forms. Dazed from the explosions, the Gyaos slowly made their way toward Hicks, only for the Major to reload and fire his rifle again. Firing the last of his ammunition in one of the birds' heads, Nick drew a sigh of relief as one of the birds fell dead. The other Gyaos lunged and slammed into the Major, sending him flying into a building, in addition to causing some of his belongings to fall on the ground. Pressing its advantage, the Gyaos grabbed Hicks with its talons on its feet and pulled him close to finish him off, only for Hicks to pull up both of his pistols and load both guns on the bird's head. After a few shots through the brain, Gyaos fell dead on top of Hicks. The Major pulled himself out from under the deceased bird and gradually stumbled to his feet. "Still haven't," Hicks pronounced before he felt a sudden pain in all of his limbs and started limping toward the pier, unaware of the military radio that lay behind him. Nick dropped to the roof of the building as the Gyaos landed next to its fallen meal. Nick started crawling away in an attempt to escape, only for the Gyaos to grab him by the leg with its mouth and toss him like a ragdoll to the other side of the roof. The juvenile bird then quickly moved over to his meal and stepped on Nick's leg to make sure he could not move. Nick struggled to no success to free himself as the Gyaos moved its head closer and closer to him. As the bird's face was within a few feet, Nick punched the bird in an act of defiance before he recovered to his feet and started running toward the edge. Nick ready to jump down to the street below, only to trip within a few feet of the edge. A loud cracking sound followed, and the scientist turned around to see the juvenile Gyaos fly directly out and then over him. Confused, Nick looked over the edge to see the winged creature now lying still on the sidewalk below. A sonic cry echoed above, causing Nick to look away from the dead creature and look up. Hovering just above him, Jaguar hovered while displaying its infamous grin. "Can you take me to the Major?" Nick asked, causing the robot to hoist the scientist off the ground and very slowly hover him toward the docks. Hicks checked the boat for any keys, a spare, anything to begin the vessel. Nothing appeared. As he felt his fist clenching with frustration, the sound of rockets made him exit the indoor compartment to see Nick and Jaguar land his ship. "Majesty, you're in one shape." "Thanks, Major. My leg might disagree, though," Nick noted as he limped toward the military officer. Hicks smirked before he declared, "We can worry about that once we're off this rock, but I have checked a couple of these vessels and none of them have keys, so there are a couple more." Nick silently moved past the Major and walked into the small fishing vessel's interior. A few seconds later, the vessel's engine roared to life. Nick exited the interior to discover a very surprised Hicks. "One of the few things Randy has taught me over the years when the heat seeker's keys are lost, usually by him."
Okay, that's another actually really funny bit.
Randy being irresponsible? What? Character defamation at its finest. Hicks chuckled from the story, but stopped as a massive shadow enveloped the entire boat. Nick, Hicks, and Jaguar all looked up to see the adult Gyaos now flying straight down to the boat in an attack pattern. "I must have been alerted by its offspring," Nick yelled as he bolted for the boat's controls. The boat sped to life, but the Gyaos proved too fast and landed next to the boat, which was still in shallow water. Jaguar took a fighting pose. Hicks pulled out both of his pistols, and Nick aimed the boat in an attempt to go under the bird, but an eruption of water caused Nick to veer toward the pier. As the water cleared, Zilla came into view, its eyes focused on the red creature and his arms retracted as if ready to pounce. Zilla looked down at the boat before a screech caused him to look up to see Gyaos' talon. Gyaos slammed its legs into the lizard and sent the monster stumbling ashore. "Zilla!" Nick screamed as he left the control station to watch the two monsters battle. "We don't have time to stay and watch the Topless. We need to move now," Hicks ordered as he ran into the vessel and sped the boat toward the open sea. "We can't leave him behind," Nick pleaded as he followed the Major into the boat. "Radar didn't ask for an extra 15 minutes. "I doubt they will give you one, but I'll try," Hicks responded sincerely, but as he reached for his radio, a sense of frustration covered his face. "Damn it! I must have dropped him when we were attacked," Hicks angrily shouted before smashing one of his fists against the dashboard and taking a much-needed deep breath. "Sorry, Nick. Nothing I can do." Audrey and Goro, under the policing of several security officers, waited in the command center of the USS George Washington until the current commander of the operation, Naoto Kitazawa, walked in. The man stared at Goro and then at Audrey before asking the reporter, "Might I ask why you wanted to spread fear on board of this vessel even though it brought you nothing but safety?" Audrey smiled and retorted, "Well, first, don't you know it's not nice to keep a girl waiting? And secondly, I was spreading the truth. That's my job." Nato cringed at Audrey before he furiously asked, How do you know?" Audrey smiled and said insultingly, "The person that you report to told me about it yesterday." "So he told civilians?" Nato snickered as he thought of the act. "Unprofessional. Look, I'll cut right to the chase. Please hold off on the bombing and help. I apologize, but your friend and the Major both left on their own will. They created their own graves, not me." Audrey's fist clenched. You have to do something. You can't sit back and let them die." Naruto glanced away from Audrey, instantly noticing the glares from the crew and captain of the ship. Feeling the universal frustration, Naruto let out a sigh. Next time I gotta write a name that I actually know how to pronounce when I'm writing this.
Oh, Naoto's fine. I don't know who Noato is.
Nato? How do you pronounce it? Noato?
Naoto.
I'm not a...
Yeah, it's Naoto.
Naoto.
Moana. There you go.
Yeah, Naoto.
Moana. Moana let out a sigh. "I'm not as heartless as you say. I'm a soldier, one that is following his orders." Slowly, Naoto turned back to face Audrey. "You can ask the crew. I requested an attempt at communication, but he did not reply." Goro watched as Audrey's face filled with disbelief, and in response, Goro smiled. "They are certainly not dead. This I am sure." "How can you be?" Naoto skeptically asked. "I've seen a lot of things in my time. Our country ravaged by evils you believe to be fighting against. But I have also witnessed a lot of great men rise to face these with an unparalleled drive. Those men are no different." The Japanese commander smirked. "You still haven't answered my question." Goro looked at Naoto in the eyes and pointed at his own. "The eyes. Yours look of fear. They twitch slightly of doubt, but not theirs. Theirs a focus, set on a goal which they will fight to accomplish." Naoto slowly stepped away from the old man and looked at his watch. "As I said, I have my orders, and the missile is launching in 2-1. A sound of thunder caused Audrey and Goro to turn and look out the window to see a missile flying from a cruiser into the horizon. Audrey watched the missile and silently hoped Goro was right. She could not see the island from her angle, but she hoped with all her heart that Nick was not on it. The boat that Hicks, Nick, and Jaguar had commandeered floated about a half-mile away from the island. Hicks looked at his watch and then yelled to Nick, "Get inside and close the door!" Nick hurried with Jaguar before he asked, "What kind of bomb is it that could reach us out here? It can't be nuclear." "It's a new fuel-air bomb that makes the Russians' father of all bombs look like a firecracker. Burns hotter than lava and longer than any of its kind. You're about to feel like you're at the top of Mount Everest except without the cold to comfort you." Zilla skidded backward into the resort. The building shuddered but stayed standing as Zilla used it to rebound and slash the winged fiend. The Gyaos screeched in agony before Zilla hit the bird with a tail swipe that sent the bird flying into the town. Rubble flew everywhere as the Gyaos skidded through the settlement before it rose back to its feet. The two stared at the other before they both heard the sound of a rocket. Both monsters turned and watched as a single missile flew inland at high speed. Realizing the impending danger, Zilla instinctively started burrowing right next to the resort. Gyaos, thinking the lizard was retreating, fired a sonic ray that missed Zilla but cut through the crimson twilight. A A second later, the whole structure collapsed. Rubble, cement, and plaster fell into the hole Zilla was building and buried the monster in its own escape route. The demonic bird screeched in the air of its success and took flight toward the ocean, only to be followed by the impact of the missile on the center of the isle. Nick watched as low-level clouds in the sky were sucked toward the middle of the island before a flash of light equal to that of the sun erupted. The blaze engulfed the island in seconds before impacting the Gyaos and engrossing it in fire. The wall of heat, after swallowing the demonic bird whole and traveling about 100 meters further, stopped expanding but kept burning. The window from which Nick was watching suddenly shattered, sucking all the oxygen out of the room in both men's lungs. Nick instantly collapsed to the ground along with Hicks, alerting the third member of the group to the dire situation. Jaguar knelt down beside the two men in an attempt to help, but there was little the robot could actually do while the duo suffocated. Nick coughed, gasped, and gagged for air on the floor of the boat, and as his body struggled to inhale oxygen. A minute of intense breathing and air loss then was met with the boat rocking violently as high-speed winds battered the vessel to fill the atmosphereless void left from the bomb as the fire dissipated. A panicked breath returned to Nick as he took a much-needed gasp of air from the returning atmosphere. Wheezing and sounding out of breath, Nick inquired, Everyone okay? Hicks nodded. He still could not find the air to talk, and Jaguar gave a thumbs up followed by a sonic screech. Nick pulled himself to his feet and readjusted the vessel's course before taking a few much-needed deep breaths. How long until they find us? Nick painfully asked. 10 minutes, tops, Hicks quietly and weakly replied as Jaguar assisted him back to his feet. What happened to that strong, commanding voice, Major? Hicks just shook his head and retorted as loud as he could. Hell, I think. Pass.
Okay. Sir, we are bringing the fleet closer to the island, but we just received a message from Captain Cole of the Cowpens about survivors.
Oh, hey, Captain Cole!
Yeah, he's a character brought back for the, but...
You're cutting out there, man. Hang on.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, okay. Someone I brought back for match 200 in a more significant... But do you know where this character's name comes from?
Captain Cole's?
Yeah.
I'm guessing one of the comics, maybe?
Actually, it's from Halo. It's the Captain, or it'd be Admiral Cole. It's one of the great admirals in the Halo series. He did the Cole Protocol, and he actually went out like a badass. And he's kind of like where the inspiration came from in 200 as well.
Oh, okay.
A little fun fact.
Well, that's cool.
Or at least for the design.
Yeah, I actually recognize his name from 275, so, you know. But yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's in 200, 275.
He's in the Grey Shot series.
Yes.
He comes later down the road. So, like, for me, who hasn't read the Grey Shot series from its start and kind of got it in partway through because of my involvement in 211, it's like, oh, okay. You know, it's like, you know, it's nice seeing these little things just being like, okay, let's bring this back, bring that back, blah, blah, blah. So, that's cool.
A radio officer announced, "Shall I play it aloud?" The captain looked back at Nagoda, a shocked reaction on his face, while Audrey's lit up with life. "That sounds like a good idea. Play it aloud," the captain of the carrier announced. The speakers at first hissed with static. Everyone in the room covered their ears until an older voice pierced the deafening screech. "This is Captain Cole of the USS Cowpens. We have a small fishing vessel in sight. Looks like survivors are on board. I would recommend alerting your medical personnel. One of them appears to have lost an arm, but damn, he looks happy to have been found." Nagoda stood motionless and confused until Goro stated, "I told you they were alive, and they even have my assistant." "How do you know it's them?" Nagoda inquired. "Who else but my assistant would smile in that condition?" Who else but my assistant would smile in that condition?" Goro humorously remarked. Two demonic eyes slowly opened as the body of Gyaos washed ashore. A searing pain enveloped the monster as it became conscious, and its wounds took hold of its mind. The winged creature was entirely covered with burns. Its wings were shredded due to the intense fires, and bone glistened from the sun in many places across the rotting beast. The skeletal and grotesque form of Gyaos rose and took flight to find out what had attacked it, as well as end it.
Oof. Damn.
You know, if that Gyaos survived, that evolution to survive that kind of a missile would have been interesting.
It's basically, if you want an idea, it's like if the Gyaos, the one that gets.
Wait, can you repeat that again? You're kind of.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's the idea. What if the Gyaos Gamma in G3? What if it could still fly? That's like the idea, the mental idea I had for.
Yeah.
Oh, you like the one from the start, the rotting dead one?
The one that friggin' gets busted up. Yeah, that was the mental image I saw. The G3 one that's all busted up. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
A helicopter slowed to a hover next to the survivor's ship, allowing medical personnel to come aboard the vessel. The crew gave oxygen equipment to Nick and Hicks while staying far away from Jaguar. A reaction the robot understood as it stood next to the pair. The pure oxygen made Hicks smile with relief, yet as the Major turned, he found his friend lost in saddening thought with his head tilted down.
Sure, that lizard. Is this the right voice? Hold on.
You have it too high.
It is not.
I just.
Sure, that lizard is fine. I should know. I got more ordnance on him than when we first met.
It's the Iron Giant, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I have no idea why it sounds that bad. Oh, I have it set to the wrong voice, that's why.
It's alright, Nagoda. Keep going. We're almost there. We're almost done.
Gyaos flew high in the sky, a smoke trail blazing behind her from the still burning flesh on her body. Hicks continued to stare until his peripheral vision noticed movement. He turned to find Nick now standing against the medical crew's orders. Nick waved them aside and took one last breath before he removed the mask and said,
This is Nick.
That's Nick.
Yeah, I had to find the right. We need to stop that thing. We can't risk it engaging the fleet.
Hicks rose to his feet and stood next to Jaguar.
That I can agree with. The Topolis. But what do you need?
Ignoring the pain his lungs reminded him effectively of, Nick looked at Jaguar and said, "We need Zilla to finish this." I'm just going to give up another voice. Jaguar, can you go back to the island and unbury him? Nick glanced at Hicks before he said, "I concur with our expert. He is definitely alive." Jaguar gave a thumbs up with his one good arm and checked his thrusters. With their repairs recently finished, the robot blasted into the sky.
And what about...
And what about us?
Hicks hastily asked. Nick glanced at the chopper and the medical team that had arrived. "All of you may want to stay here. We're going to need your ride." Jaguar flew top speed towards the island as the fleet grouped together in preparation for what was about to attack it. It took only a few minutes for the robot to land where the resort had been, but the robot's scans revealed the destroyed landscape. Glass fragments covered the once luxurious beach areas. The tropical shrubbery had been burned away, and the ground had a sickly black coating. The hole in which Zilla had been buried was now partially open from the intense fireball, burning some of the rubble away. Jaguar immediately grew to maximum size for its core, which was about 15 meters still, and started digging. The robot removed massive chunks of plaster and rubble before he found the tip of the lizard's tail. Unable to lift Zilla free, Jaguar ran possible scenarios until he found a suitable plan. The robot reached into its shredded arm, grabbed a wire, and slowly edged eye to Zilla's tail.
Yep, that's robot for edged it.
Yeah.
Slowly edged E to Zilla's tail. A small jolt connected the wire and the tail for a brief second, but nothing happened. Jaguar tried again, and then a last third jolt, only for Zilla to remain stagnant. Calculating the poor odds of his tactic working any further, Jet Jaguar decided to keep digging Zilla out. As Jet Jaguar started removing more rubble, a slight movement caught his optical sensors. Jet Jaguar returned to see Zilla's tail gone from its original position. A low growl echoed through the debris underneath the robot before the ground started rising. Jet Jaguar sprinted away before Zilla's head burst through the ground. Rubble, water, and debris flew in all directions as Zilla lifted himself out of its hastily created grave. Wonder where that water came from. Noticing the reflective man below, Zilla lowered its head and studied the small figure that had awakened it. With its first primary goal accomplished, Jet Jaguar started to communicate with Zilla. Sonic cries filled the air, and the robot began signaling the reptile with hand signs. Zilla cocked its head in curiosity, and as the robot spoke, informing him of the Gyaos, the bomb, and
Boom!
Zilla and Jet Jaguar looked out to the sea, watching the glow of a small fireball fade in the distance. Realizing the lack of time, Jet Jaguar pointed towards the sea and signaled the lizard to follow. Zilla bellowed in agreement before Jet Jaguar flew toward the USS George Washington. Zilla dove into the ocean before swimming at full speed behind the robot. A massive wall of water formed around the swimming lizard as the two swiftly moved toward the fleet. Bit my tongue again there. Anti-air rounds and missiles flew into the air to try to kill the attacking Gyaos. Yet the agility of the creature, even in its deathly state, proved more than a match for the fleet. Man, they are really bad at aiming. This thing is half dead and burnt alive.
I mean, the Gyaos are really agile.
To be fair.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you remember the movie, there was the massive strike with the missiles. It was so fast that they didn't see it take off as the missile struck.
True. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's that fast alive, can you imagine speed? If it's like even a quarter, it's like probably dodging this stuff with ease. And like gunfire, it's like, what's gunfire to me?
Mm-hmm. I mean, they do have experience dodging explosive projectiles.
Yeah, that has to be adapted. Survives. It has to be an adapted trait.
Sonic rays brought down any jet in the air, but no Jaguars, and one unlucky cruiser as the case.
Oh yeah.
Could you go back to where you were reading? You kind of cut off there, Nagoda.
Oh, Sonic rays brought down any jet, no jet Jaguars, just jets, in the air, and one unlucky cruiser as the rays sliced it in half. Gyaos aimed itself at the USS George Washington, its maw glowing yellow as it gathered energy merely for a flare to fly by its head. The beast glanced at its origination to discover the man from the airfield hanging out of a helicopter. "I think I got its attention," Nick screamed as Hicks piloted the chopper towards the island while avoiding friendly fire. An angry screech echoed from the flying red beast, and a sonic ray erupted from his jaws, slicing off the tail rotor of the chopper. The vehicle immediately flew into a deadly spin. Hicks fought for control, but without the rotor, his actions were useless. The Major glanced below, noticing the supercarrier's deck quickly approaching, and yelled to Nick.
Jump!
Nick removed
Nagoda?
the scientist before the pain
Nick removed.
what?
Nick removed. I could not catch anything you said there.
Oh, did I? Oh yeah, I just noticed Discord's thing is in the red right now. It's probably cutting out for me too.
Uh-oh.
Nick removed the safety straps and jumped, falling a dozen feet before breaking his fall on the deck. Blackness instantly greeted the scientist before the pain of the impact awakened him. Nick looked around for the chopper, but he could not spot a trace of it. A sudden quake caused Nick to roll as the carrier tilted before the ship evened out, allowing Nick to painfully get to his feet. Nick's eyes then widened as he realized what now stood at the opposite end of the carrier. The red demonic creature remembered its previous altercation with the scientist, and wasted little time in starting to walk over to his newfound prey. Marines exited the interior of the carrier, providing cover fire for the fleeing personnel, only to retreat as the Gyaos passed by and tried to pick at the soldiers with its mouth. I was trying to think of a better word. With nowhere to go but down, Nick prepared to jump, but a shining glimmer caught his attention. The highly reflective object leveled out and touched down beside him. Its confident smile, ready to combat the living death in front of the pair. Jaguar emitted a piercing sonic cry, instructing the Gyaos to back away, but Gyaos only lunged. Jaguar grabbed Nick and skyrocketed up as a massive wall of water hit the carrier. The demonic creature staggered back before falling to the steel deck, while the carrier shook from the impact. Gyaos quickly rose back to its feet, only to see Zilla climb aboard the USS George Washington.
Take
The
that,
Gyaos
Kong versus Godzilla. Got beat to it.
The Gyaos charged and swung its wing at the lizard, impacting Zilla and forcing him to skid on the runway, but the determined reptile remained on the vessel. The demonic creature then swung its wing again, only for Zilla to catch it with its mouth and rip off its entire arm. Gyaos screeched in agony before retreating back to the opposite edge of the carrier. The bird looked back at its side, and then at Zilla, who tossed the wing into the ocean. Realizing that it could not retreat or fly, Gyaos fired its sonic ray. He could retreat, but it's not going to be a good.
Be a very hazardous swim.
One that she's most likely to die from. Too quick to react, the ray slid across Zilla's abdomen. Blood pooled on the deck, and Zilla fell, causing Gyaos to screech arrogantly. A pained breath escaped Zilla's jaws, and the reptile weakly rose, only for the Gyaos to fire another quick sonic ray through Zilla's left arm. That's gotta hurt. The reptile fell again, struggling to rise as Gyaos opened his maw one last time. Sonic waves started emitting from the Gyaos' mouth, and intensified with each passing second. Glass started breaking as the sonic waves increased in strength. As the sonic ray was about to reach full power, a sonic cry, other than the one Gyaos was screeching, filled the air. Jaguar flew straight at the bird with its shredded arm leading its form, flying like Superman, colliding with the creature's eye. The nerve ruptured from the impact, sending blood spurting in all directions, and in extreme agony, the Gyaos fired its sonic ray straight into the air as it fell on the command structure on the vessel. Jaguar then sent another sonic cry into the air, telling Zilla to attack now. Zilla looked up, watching the Gyaos frenzy in terror, and slapped Jaguar away before the bird turned toward the reptile. Its sole eye focused on him. A menacing screech echoed from Gyaos as Zilla lunged forward. Zilla's beast snapped onto the beast's neck. Zilla's jaws snapped onto the beast's neck, and the reptile pushed with all its might. The demonic creature sunk its talons into the deck in a desperate attempt to stop its movement, tearing up the steel floor. But Zilla's will proved stronger as the two fell off the ship and plunged into the ocean. See? Look at that. Wouldn't have worked either way if he tried retreating into the ocean.
Yes, same result.
Air bubbles rose from Gyaos' jaw as it gasped for air as Zilla dragged it into the depths of the ocean. The beast's skull began to crack, its hollow bones filled with water, and blood seeped from every wound until its movements finally ceased. Zilla released his grip and floated away from the red corpse, watching the shadow of evil disappear into the pitch-black void of the ocean. With victory finally achieved, Zilla gurgled a sigh of relief and slowly descended to the rocky ocean floor. With his father safe and his enemies defeated, Zilla welcomed the pitch blackness of a well-earned rest. Audrey and Nick sat side by side at the edge of the deck as they observed the island while the sun began to set in its background. The blackened, desolate island reflected the sunlight well and brought a sense of beauty back to the ruined island. I wonder if Hicks would have liked the view, Nick noted, causing Audrey to lift her head off his cast-encased arms. Let me just...
I personally doubt it.
She nailed it.
Okay.
Hey, it's the same voice you did.
Pretty much.
Not wrong.
I got a better one.
He seemed to be enjoying all the morphine a lot more. In fact, that smile he had might even be bigger than Jet. Which reminds me,
Audrey smacked Nick's cast, causing him to yelp, and the crewmen in the distance to laugh. What was that for?
running like an idiot today out of the helicopter.
I was. Audrey then leaned in and kissed him on the cheek, silencing Nick.
And that is for always coming back to. But next time, I would like you intact.
Man, that voice really does not like sounding normal. I'll give it my best shot, Nick sincerely noted before glancing at the elegant sight. I knew I had chosen correctly, Nick murmured to himself as he remembered what he had thought about when he and Audrey first arrived on the island.
What did you say, Nick?
Audrey asked as she leaned back on the scientist's shoulders. Nothing, the scientist replied, as the island slowly disappeared into the twilight with the sun. Nothing at all. Winner, Jaguar, and Zilla.
Oh, holy cow.
Did in 2 hours.
2 hours.
Heck yeah.
Longest KWC match, I want to make note.
This is the longest. Oh, yeah, for anyone listening in who made it to the end, thank you for your patience and your time. Unless you're just using us as background noise, then whatever. This is like one we actually did. I was originally planning to have split half and half, call it good. But no, we had enough peeps around, or at least enough dedicated peeps around to actually read it. So, that was fun. Nevertheless, oh boy, where do I start? There are... okay. Okay, first...
I was gonna say, we need to add another hour onto this so we can beat out Baggin versus everyone Fallout.
Nah, that's...
Oh my god, yeah, that match is like, what happened?
You can't...
I'm looking at it now. 3 hours and 43 minutes.
You can't...
Wow.
Either 164, 200, or 275 will do that job for us. We do not need that here. Nevertheless... Oh... Well, first off, I'll start with the banner. I actually kind of like this banner for its, I really like this banner for its simplicity. I like the way the monsters are positioned in states. There are a nice bit of burrowing effects going on with Zilla. I like the fact that Jaguar is just kind of hidden behind the building, but you can still see him. And then I just always kind of like Gaira from the back. And Gyaos. So, it's a nice, simple composition, but I dig it. And there's also the boat. And the jets. So it's like, hey, hooray, it accurately reflects the match. Alright. So, I think the story itself is fundamentally, it's just kind of basic to set up the fight. And in that sense, it's perfectly fine. We get Gora returning from 137, just basically saying, oh yeah, Jaguar, he's here. I don't feel like it was particularly that, deep or complex. It was super surface level and kind of straightforward. The sentence structuring, though, is probably one of my least favorite elements here. There are a ton of moments where it feels like it's either misusing or missing punctuation marks that made it very difficult to kind of read. It was like, who was saying what? Who? When? Or how is this supposed to be phrased? Oh, that's how it's supposed to be phrased. It felt very confusing trying to read it through, especially with a lot more of the dialogue-heavy sections. The monster fighting sections, I think, are fine. Those seem to have been, really easy for, to read through and whatnot. But a lot of the dialogue really needs some touching up. In addition, it also just kind of felt like a lot of characters felt like exposition vessels than actual characters, I'll say. Can't say I was too huge on that. I understand, early match, totally get it. We've all been there, but I am saying it as I see it, and I am pointing out the problems as I see them. Especially with the experience and hindsight that I have now. So I can't say... I'd say I like this one a little more than, say, 137. In a relative sense. I do have to say this one does have some really nice highlights. 2 Gairas, that's really cool. I'm surprised no one else has really utilized that, and I'm kind of happy that it's there. That's like, oh yeah, an arm goes missing and we get another Gaira. That's really cool. I like its utilization when both Gairas went up against Jaguar, beat him, and then it was like, oh yeah, we have the military and the Gyaos to kind of deal with, and Jaguar. So it's like, that was really cool. I really like that. The other major highlight I would actually have to give to Gyaos, the children emerging from the volcano was kind of a surprise. I didn't see that one coming, and her surviving the bomb into the zombified state akin to like Gamma 3. Imagine that messed up Gyaos from Gamma 3 fighting. That's awesome. I love that. That's a very grotesque visual, and I love it. But nevertheless, it feels like a really long, extended... it feels like an average match that's just kind of extended and elongated, but peppered with some really interesting highlights. So I can't say it's one of my favorites. I can't say I liked it, but I like it enough. So it's at least a step up from 137, which I didn't particularly care for much at all. But yeah, I think this one's fine, but has a lot of not necessarily punctuation flaws, punctuation errors. There we go. Yeah, a lot of punctuation errors that vitally needed to make it readable and easier to grasp, because it does seem like characters are saying one thing when you're really meaning to say, oh, that's what they're saying, all that. So yeah. Anyway. Who?
So I guess I'll go next. So yeah, as the writer, major shout out to originally King's Silent's co-writer. He did a lot of the major work for the first half of this, and definitely helped me get my style down in regards to how I wrote it.
Wait, if this is co-written, why isn't he credited?
Because he didn't want to be credited.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he and Mothra Rocks both looked this over back when the fanfiction part of the TK forums was far larger. They both looked it over and they did some edits, and I was like, "Oh, thanks, guys."
Oh, okay.
Obviously, I went over this again before I posted to the main site.
Yeah.
But yeah, regardless, first off, I want to say, thank for them for helping me make this. I made this my senior year of high school. And so that would have been 2011 is when I wrote this. And it was only posted 4 years ago. But regardless, the major thing for this match is, first off, for the banner, I actually kind of disagree in regards to it. It has a lot of detail to it. For instance, if you look over at the Gyaos, you can see Gaira's left arm.
Wait.
There is
I see.
Yeah. Signifying it had a hand in taking the arm. There's and then in regards to the detail, you notice the Greek.
Oh wait, Gaira's arms with the Gyaos?
Yeah, you don't see it between the wing and the tail?
Oh, holy crap, yeah, I see it now. Whoa, okay, that's cool. Wait, I thought I said I liked all the detail. Why?
Oh, you said it was...
Detail.
Wait, what did I just say?
Yeah. Oh, you said it in regards to, detail, and I was like, actually... No, but it does have some hidden details. Okay. There are some stuff in the match that doesn't happen, obviously the Crimson Twilight having a hole burned through it from Zilla's atomic ray. That doesn't happen.
Well, right, but that's just a stylized choice. So
it does. Yeah, it is just something I thought would be pretty funny, especially with Jaguar's mug, just
hey, how's it going?
Yeah, but no, for the match itself, I do agree the story is very simplistic, and there are some characters like Manny, Cliff, and Naoto that really don't need to be there, but they are. It's fine having small characters make just normal comments and stuff.
Right.
But I tried to have this be this match be a case of this is just random people they interact with, and just because they're these people aren't going to be in the story the whole time, like Cliff or Manny. They're just there at the beginning just to be oh, I'm the manager.
you know, like this is what's going on from their perspective,
Right.
because that's I assumed from when I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, giving them a name gives them a bit more personality for the readers to enjoy.
right. It's like giving it's giving the world a little bit more life by giving them names than just the manager or the admiral. I get that. And while it pays off with Cole. Pays off with Cole.
It's that one is actually just I never even attended. It was just like, oh, I need a ship. Oh, this will work. The USS Cowpens. I'll bring that one back. That's kind of cool.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And I'll be able to flesh him out. But yeah, I do agree. They're very bare bones, and they aren't really necessary to the story. Because they really aren't.
No,
they're just there for their like small sections. Regardless, though, in regards to the structure, I do agree the grammar is bad for this match because grammar was always my worst thing, and I'm finally understanding how to implement it into a story or into a written match. Obviously, I still have a few problems, but yeah, like semicolons, commas, there's a lot of issues with this in regards, like especially with dialogue, what highlights with what. But the one thing I will say is there are some actual in regards to actually the dialogue, I think it's also down to for me, this is, whenever I read this, I immediately knew, and that's a major problem, is like, for me, I'm like, I look at this and I'm like, oh yeah, this is sarcasm, this is not, like, a lot of the best jokes that we laughed at throughout this was either sarcasm or like situations that I knew how to implement in my head but was not conveyed correctly. So yeah, it's a lot of this would be a good joke if it was executed correctly, which, you know, it was not, which did not occur that often. It was like 50-50.
Right.
But I did try to incorporate that humor because that is something
from the show.
Yeah. Also, with regard to this match, I think a reason why it went by quickly is because scenes go by, and again, people are like, how do you make a match not boring in regards to, like, how do you make it, like, to go through? And my thing is, change your location but always make sure every scene is necessary, but change your location and what's going on. This match very much flows from, like, you have the setup, you have a setup, you have a rising tension, it keeps rising until the Gyaos is dead. You have that natural, like, it doesn't blow its load. It always keeps rising. The stakes keep getting higher and higher, ludicrously, and like the missile and stuff.
Right.
But like, there's a rising sense of tension, and there's different points of view you can look at. I think that's why this match goes by relatively quickly compared to like everyone versus everyone Fallout, or Big Game versus everyone Fallout, which took forever because it was just a whole bunch of monsters slugging it out, and you could feel the energy being drained upon getting written.
Yeah.
From those that were reading it.
Yes. Agreed. I mean, yeah, that's probably one of my other praises with this match is the fact that things do change. It at least keeps a nice pace throughout. For all the other problems I have with it, pacing is not too much of an issue here. That said, like the actual sense of, like, you know, certain scenes only last this long. Okay, let's move to the next thing. Okay, you know, these scenes are done. Let's move to the next thing. You know, so it doesn't. Yeah, it fortunately does not linger long, which I am happy for.
Yeah, and there are some nice moments that I try never to repeat. Excluding Zilla and Gyaos fighting, every monster never really fights the same monster twice. And that's something that I would always stress is keep your monsters changing so you can do the most unique thing you can with the monsters. Well, actually, Jaguar and Gaira versus twice, but that's the case. The setup is now there's two of them versus one.
Yeah.
Have each fight different, and if you can't make it different, find a way.
Yes.
Because if you can't make your engagements different, then there's no point in there's no point in writing it.
Agreed.
And in which case, there are some moments in this match I do love. I love Goro and Nick, like, kind of testing each other to find out what the other one knows. I like the reveal of the plot. The ending, I again take that Kong versus Godzilla, but I do like the idea of the two monsters battling on the aircraft carrier, and it does get bloody at the end. Probably a little bit needlessly so, but this is one of my favorite earlier matches. Even if it does have its fair share of problems, I still enjoy the end. But Nagoda, what are your thoughts?
Real quick, you said that you wrote this in your senior year of high school?
I did indeed.
I guess the grammar doesn't really matter because high school grammar just really sucks all the time.
Oh, trust me, it didn't until like a few 200. I would say.
Wait, what was that? Could you repeat that again?
What was that?
I couldn't hear you.
You just got loud and cut off.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say that 200 is when I finally got a handle like basic, and then I would say like 200, 225. That's when I finally got it down, like my style. So
275, I think, is where I finally found myself. Like,
yeah, and 275 I think is the best recent result, not just because it is the best, because it is the most the recent, at least for matches I've posted. I haven't posted anything else since.
not yet.
Not yet. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah, no, this. But I still enjoyed this match, and I still, just because it was old, I don't think you should forgive it for that.
Yeah.
But it does explain. It does explain some
Yes.
I guess that's something we both have in common. We both wrote an extremely long batch in our senior year of high school.
things. Whatever do you
A
mean?
cinematic parallel.
Anyways, I remember reading this when it came out all those years ago, and I really enjoyed it. I remember being surprised when the second Gaira just suddenly just appeared and started attacking everyone. Like all the excitement, the battles, everything about it. Jaguar losing an arm was all really, really fun. And reading it now, it still has that same like fun in the match that it did back then.
Nagoda, that is called nostalgia. Don't hold on to your nostalgic feelings.
The banner looks really nice. The banner looks really nice. I like how the dust cloud around Zilla, the jets flying in, Gyaos just flying in. Gaira's missing an arm. You can kind of see some red splotches of blood there. I guess the building is the one thing that. Actually, hold on. That's something you have in just about almost all of your matches, isn't it? There's either a big hole in a building or someone going through a building.
I mean, I try.
If to be fair, it makes banners look more dynamic, so you know.
Also, I really enjoy like all the human elements in this match. Like all the characters, they're not just there to be characters. They're there and they actually have things to do in the story. They actually matter instead of just, oh look, there's a guy here. He's running away now.
At least that was.
If you want to know something that I really do, I like something I have done. Like all of my matches with Jaguar.
What was that?
I couldn't catch. Couldn't catch that. What was that?
I say I constantly rip off Jaguar's arm.
Yeah.
KWCs, stop spreading your glitch to everyone.
But no, regardless, because 200 I rip off his arm, and I'm pretty sure in Ebera versus, I think I have his arm broken in that.
I think so. Yeah.
Man, his poor arm. He's like Vegeta, keeps breaking that arm.
And I think there's going to be a couple matches up and coming where his arm's going to be broken off again. Spoilers.
I just realized I broke his arm too.
Well, yeah, it was very, it's just something I just noticed you can do, because Jaguar, you don't need him to come back, you can rip off the guy's arms. It's like in the next match, you don't have to explain why he's fighting with one arm. It's like, oh no, Goro just built him a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You goddamn Skywalker? Like. Also, I'm here now.
Hello, Bacon. You have arrived at the very, very last minute.
Yes. But yeah, regardless. One thing I will say is that when it comes to the actual, I tried to make sure every monster had a different engagement and did something that they never did before, which is why you have, Gaira generating into 2, the Gyaos using the the swarm. Actually, I didn't even know if I could use Zilla's heat beam until Tom did it. I only got I was like, oh yeah, Tom did it. I can use the heat beam.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right,
Yeah,
this is
or Jet Jaguar electrocuting the other Gyaro. Like, oh yeah, that's something you could probably do.
right,
Because,
theoretically speaking. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so, ooh.
Anyways,
So, Bacon.
Bacon, you want to give your thoughts?
What did you think of the match you
I
didn't
beat you
read?
to it.
Kino.
Well,
There.
well constructed criticism right there. I see. A master at it. A natural.
I just like every YouTuber movie critic, don't you know?
You're totally right. Damn it, I hate that, and you're right.
Oh, I just remembered something.
What?
The Gyaos coming from the volcanoes, kind of like a reference to Rodan.
I always think it was more of a reference to the original Gamma versus Gyaos, where Gyaos, I think, like either dies in a volcano or connected to a volcano.
I can tell you none of those things were going through my head.
Dang it.
You are glad to make the reference.
Darn you.
And I was not here.
Darn you, subject to interpretation. Making the match smarter than it actually is. Anyway. So, with that said, this has been match 146, and we will see you guys next time for match 147. Till then, folks.
I hope it's not as long as this one.